For some riders, the dream of becoming a professional supercross racer feels almost certain. The path into the professional ranks already laid out ahead. For Hunter Yoder, that was once the story. Hunter grinded through the amateur ranks, winning everything there was to win. That success led to a deal with Geico Honda as an amateur, racing the iconic CRF 150R, with what looked like a clear future waiting for him in the pros. Everything was lined up until it wasn't.
I was in the office negotiating a pro contract, and we had that all laid out right in front of me, and then for it to get taken away, like, it put me in a dark spot. So I went from toy hauler to the highest level, guaranteed pretty much, until it wasn't, and then back to the toy hauler in a matter of 2 years. That'd be pretty hard for anybody to go through.
When Geico Honda shut its doors, the dream Hunter had spent his life building disappeared overnight. The contract, the team, the path forward, all gone. For most riders, that's where the story ends, but Hunter kept going.
I would say up until probably 2 or 3 years ago, it affected me. It was like, okay, Geico shut down, now what's my next step?
After years of grinding it out as a privateer, he earned his place with Club MX Yamaha, putting everything on the line to make the dream real again. Delivering results for the team and earning a contract extension with Club MX, the first real security he's had since Geico Honda.
I just want to let you know that you've earned a 2-year contract extension. And the hair on the back of my neck stood up, my arms, everything. And I'm like, are you for real? And he's like, yeah, you're not lying to me. And he's like, no, Brandon gave me the go ahead. No fucking way. I'm on the phone with my parents. Like, my dad's sitting there, he's crying because, like, everything that I've talked about so far, like all the stuff we've gone through, I feel like I've got so much more left in the tank. I don't feel like my ceiling is a 7th. I feel quite the opposite.
Gypsy gang, welcome Hunter Yoder to the podcast. I'm going to interrupt this podcast to bring you a pretty crazy statistic. 70% of people that watch this channel are not subscribed. That does a couple of things. A, that means that you might not be getting served this content the minute that it comes out. And it also just tells YouTube that they're not really worth watching. So if you want to support the podcast, the easiest and quickest, most high impact thing you can do is subscribe to this channel, give this podcast a like, and leave a comment down below to let us know who you would like to see on Gypsy Tales next. We're going to do our best to bring them to you. All right, let's get back to the podcast.
I met a gypsy.
All right, let's get into it. Hunter Yoder, just like that.
Yeah.
We're doing it.
Let's do it.
One of the hottest prospects on the West Coast.
So they say.
Mate, like you were just saying, perfect timing to come on here. Feel like you've had a very up and down, mostly down career.
Yeah. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head.
And it's just pretty cool to see the climb back. You really don't see what you've done. And everybody that I've told that you're doing this, like, oh,
yeah,
I'm excited.
Yeah, it's not very often. I actually was like talking to my mom about it. Like, you know, I was talking to my mom about, we have a friend who's, you know, kind of undecided on if they're racing or not. But he's racing right now, but he may give it up. But I was there at one point. I truly had given it up. Like, I was over it. I was done. I'd raced Supercross, fallen very short of where I thought I should have been. Well, I shouldn't say that. Where everyone thought I should have been. I made 2 mains that year. You know, that really just doesn't cut it. And yeah, I pretty much gave up. And you know, not many people can say that they've gotten, you know, a top 10 in a 250 main event. You know, I got 9th in points last year. I feel like I have a good amount of accomplishments that are sort of stacking up. And, you know, like, just from the point of quitting, basically, to the point where I'm at now, and I think it's been 3 years, you know, like, I feel like I'm just on, like, an upward trajectory. And, you know, not many people achieve what I have, 1, and 2, not many people can kind of come back from that either. So
Yeah.
It's something I really, like, pride myself on and pat myself on the back for, because it was hard, dude. It was really hard.
Oh, man. So you were, to paint the picture for people, you were Orange Brigade 65, like, factory ride.
I was the youngest sponsored KTM rider ever.
That's insane.
Yeah. It's probably been broken now, but at the time, 2013, I was 7. I was the first person that they had pretty much taken under their wing, and that's massive. Like, I had a Cobra deal before that, but it was nothing crazy. Like, I don't even know if I was getting free bikes. I don't think I was, but getting 6 bikes from KTM is at 7 years old. It's pretty wild. And then that led me into the Geico thing, and then everyone kind of, we'll touch on that, but everyone knows how that ended. And it's been kind of for a second it was a slow bleed out for sure. Like, I was trying to save it and I just wasn't, and the walls were closing in, and I feel like I've revived myself for sure now, and I'm back on the on the right path. And
so what is getting 7 bikes or 6 bikes at 7 years old? Like, how does
Sick.
that? Because, I mean, it had never happened before, but, I mean, that's just like a wild thing to be like, a 7-year-old is so good that we're giving him all of this support. So, like, what were the first years of racing like? Why were you, like, how did you get that good? Like, how did that even come about?
So I guess we could start from the beginning, but my parents had me very young. My dad was 21.
Oh, really?
My mom was 19.
Wow.
So you talk about, like, I'm 21 right now. I don't have much figured out. Like, I'm ahead as far as money-wise more than most 21-year-olds. But besides that, like, I had a hard time deciding what I was going to put on this morning before I came to this. So it's like giving a 21-year-old kid and a 19-year-old kid their own child is pretty wild.
Where are they from, this area?
Yeah. My dad's originally from Arizona, but he moved out to California when he was 15 or 16, and my mom's from San Diego. That's where I was born and raised. So I grew up down there. But my parents had no idea about anything about moto. My dad bought a street bike when he was younger. I think he was 18 or something when he bought a street bike.
And that's what got your mom pregnant.
Yeah. My grandma wasn't happy about it.
Yeah.
So he sold it and went and bought a 1999 KX 125 and had no clue. He used to ride in Dickies and like Nike tennis shoes, down at like El Cajon. And he didn't even, the track wasn't a thing. It was like he'd go ride at El Cajon with his buddies, and then Glamis was like the place to be. And so, no clue about racing. He did off-road racing, like desert stuff. And he had his own fab shop, and so he was building like buggies, trophy trucks. He did, that sort of thing. And I was going out and riding around in the desert, like on a Honda 50, just in circles while he went and raced. And fast forward, that was when I was 3, 4 years old. It probably started like he didn't know, again, anything. Like, didn't know Supercross. He knew about it, but he didn't know how to get there. He didn't know Loretta's. Didn't know, the amateur scene. So everything was figured out on the fly. Went and got me a KTM when I was 5. I rode around just at like Elsinore, and somebody came up to him and was like, "Hey, your kid's pretty good. Like, you should take him to race." And it went from there. And so, I started at like the local Star West, and then like I forget even after that, like we had a series called the Gold Cup. It went around Southern California.
Yeah.
So like that was kind of where I started, and then I went to public school up until I was I want to say 14, maybe 13, which was around the time I got the Geico deal. So none of it was focused. Like, kids get homeschooled at 6 years old to race moto. That wasn't a thing for me. It was, I rode maybe once during the week and once on the weekends if I was lucky. Again, like, we didn't have no money. We lived in an apartment basically. And, my dad had to figure out how to keep the bikes together. Mom was working 2 jobs. He was working 2 jobs. Mom was going to school at night to try to get a degree. And so like the whole beginning of my journey was like rough. It wasn't what most kids have. And so it was just, I think that's kind of what instilled the fight in me, I guess.
Yeah, a bit of the grind, because it was always a grind.
It was always a grind. Like, I didn't know any different, you know? I was luckily pretty talented, like, naturally, but I still had to work hard at it. You know, I wasn't good enough to just hop on and be the best. Like, so I think from a young age, like, I really had to work hard, and it was always something I wanted to do. There was no doubts or second guessing, you know? It was from the time I was 5 years old, like, I wanted to be a Supercross racer. That was just that. There was no, I think to this day, I still haven't even thought about what I might want to do, you know, like outside of this. It's just, that's what I've had my eyes on, and, you know, never shifted the focus.
What are some of your memories from those early days? Like your first memories of just like wanting to be a pro Supercross rider? Were you like training, running and shit as a 5-year-old?
No,
like, what did it look like?
No, but, you know, just building jumps and like, just, you know, things like that. I remember, you know, there'd be days my dad would come home from work and like my option was like stay and hang out with my buddies or go and ride at the track. And I can promise every time it was go ride. Like, I didn't give a damn about my friends who were hanging out in the neighborhood. Like, they were cool until I got that option to go ride. And I didn't need to go ride with anybody. I could go ride by myself and have a good time. Like, it was... Yeah, I guess just the focus, like, was there.
So it's just always a thing that you just loved from day one.
Yeah. So, yeah. After that, you know, like 7, 8 was when it started to get serious. You know, still didn't have any money. Grandma helped me out a lot. She had a business, so she was able to help us, like, with some bikes and stuff. She traveled and was basically mom. Because mom stayed home and worked, and they had my younger brother when I was 7. So that was when things ramped up, and she was staying home. So we traveled in like an 18-foot toy hauler. Yeah, 3 of us in a truck and a trailer, 1 or 2 bikes if I had to, and just pretty much made it work. Like, it was looking back now, I didn't know any different, but looking back, like, I definitely didn't have the nicest setup or, you know, I'd wear mixed match gear, but like, we made it work. And, you know, I'm so thankful for my parents and everyone else that helped me. Like, such a sacrifice looking back. Like, I didn't realize what was going on then. It was just, that was normal for me. But like, looking back, like, it's so gnarly what they went through to get me to this point.
It's crazy, eh? And I mean, motocross does that, or sport in general does that. I mean, even when we were kids, like my brother and I, when we were racing, very similar. We had an old Ford Transit van that we used to cram into. My dad would leave. We lived about 20 hours drive away from like the closest big races. Yeah. So dad would finish work early on a Friday, drive all through the night, get there for practice, unload the bikes, we'd practice, we'd race. Neither of us were good enough to ever go pro. It wasn't even like a thing.
But that wasn't like the focus. It was for the love of it.
Yeah, and the sacrifice.
That's why we all started, dudes, for the love of it.
Yeah, and the sacrifice that they would make and the money they would spend, and like, dude, it's fucking crazy when you think about
super crazy
what parents will actually do for their kids, you know?
Yeah, and now, like, dude, the strain it puts on relationships is heavy. So heavy. Like, me and my dad we're good now, but like, dude, there was a time, you know, like, we lived in the same house. I didn't talk to him a word for a year probably.
Really?
Oh yeah. There was times like I've always been a little bit like feisty, and he is as well. And again, like, you know, having a kid when you're young, he wasn't fully matured yet, right? When you're 25 or 26, he's got a hot temper, and I'm 5 or 6, like, and I wasn't afraid. Like, there's times, you know, like, we'd get in arguments and I'd crack him, dude, or like,
that's wild.
You know, we'd be wrestling, like, there was times I remember it vividly. I was 17 and like he said something to me and I said something back, and before you know it, we're wrestling in the rocks in the front of the house. Like it's it's heavy. It's
And you think when you look back now, it was because of the pressure that he was under?
100%. Yeah, and for me, like I mostly when I was younger, when you're 7, 8, 10, you don't have pressure. You're worried about building a toy dirt bike track with your buddies or hitting some dirt jumps on your BMX bike. Like you ain't worried about the race necessarily, but for sure for him it was like, you know, I see it now. Like we didn't have no money, and then he busts his ass to get us there, and then you know, little shithead kid talks back. Like I see it. Like, you know, it's understandable, but yeah, like and then I got that way. Like, you know, that when I was 16 to 18, 19 even, like thought I knew everything. You know, I pushed him out. Like it was just me and my mom going to the races. You know, there was times it put a strain on their relationship, you know, because I'm mom's baby, right? So mom's trying to protect me, and I've got me and dad are getting into it, and I'm not helping myself. Like, you know, I don't back down from anybody, and you know, if I should be scared of anybody, it should be him, you know, and I'm not. Like, and so I just, you know, she's trying to help me, and I can't help myself, and he's pissed off at me, and then she's defending me, and it just full circle. And there was times, you know, like they were split up probably because of that. Like, so yeah, the motocross, I love it, dude, but it's gnarly in all ways, and ways you wouldn't imagine, like just heavy.
Yeah, and this is one of the, it's cool you're talking about it, because this is like one of the stories that you don't hear.
Yeah.
But it's very common.
It was something I did want to talk about, because I feel most guys come on here and they're like, oh yeah, you know, like at A2, I was P1 for a second. Like they'd come on here and be, oh yeah, I'm P1. But like, it's, there's way more to it than just that. You know, it's, I think too, like something that I kind of I was thinking about it on the way here. Like I quit pretty much at one point. So I've come so close to that like I'm sort of okay with it now.
I was literally about to say, if you get that close to quitting, you've accepted that you quit.
I've accepted it now, even like, you know, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And that's kind of what it is. There's nothing I can really do about that. What I can do is give it my all every time, and you know, train my hardest, and you know, do all the right things to try to make it work. But if it truly doesn't work, then it doesn't work. But yeah, it's heavy for sure. You know, I don't think you see a lot of people when they retire or you know, they stop racing, like it's a year and a half, I would say, of like they go dark, they lose themselves, probably depressed, like all those things kick in, you know, when this is all you know for, call it 40 years, 35, you know, average age of retirement. You know, you probably lose yourself a bit. Like I can imagine going down a deep, dark hole, because it's crazy. I've already been there. At 18 years old, I was there. I sat on the couch for 3 months, and I would go from my room to the couch, maybe play some golf, and that was it. I was pretty much retired at 18. Like, and so it's crazy that I've sort of accepted that, and I've already come to. It'll be hard when I stop racing for sure again, but like, you know, I've already kind of seen the end of it. Like,
yeah, it's funny. I was having this conversation with my friend's partner the other day. We were driving to the track. They're over from Australia, and she was talking about like that negative voice in your head, and like always thinking about the worst case scenario. And she's like, man, I'm like stuck in a thing of like always thinking about the worst outcome. And I'm like, yeah, but that's fine. Like I feel like I do that as well. Like when I was going through all the visa stuff, I was like, all right, I'm prepared not to get this visa, and then I'll sell all my shit.
Prepare
and
for the
I'll
worst.
Go back
hope for
home
the
and
best.
I'll don't even have to do the podcast anymore.
Yeah.
Like I've got all these skills. I've got this team. We can do a different thing. Like,
Yeah.
and I mentally prepared myself for the worst case scenario, accepted it, and then moved on with my life. You know, when it's the thing that you know that it's the worst case scenario, but you so badly don't want it to happen that you mentally just push against this hypothetical situation instead of accepting it. And it's like, and when you can fully be okay with the worst case scenario, it actually is quite a bit easier to just walk through life after that.
I was going to say, when you've accepted it, I think it makes everything easier.
For sure.
Like, you know, now I'm in a spot where I put pressure on myself because at this point, I'm in a place, in a position where it won't not work out, if that makes sense. Like, I've worked my way to that point. So now I put pressure on myself for sure. But that first year of kind of coming back to Supercross, like, it's probably like the funnest year I've had because it was just like.
Was that when you were training with Jats?
No, I never trained with him.
You never trained with Jats?
He had left before that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you.
That was how I met
Jats
Duran, though.
Okay.
Was through Jackson, yeah.
Because Jats told me a long time ago that you were a funny motherfucker.
Really?
So that's like kind of how I knew that you were cool.
He, where I live, the same road I live on, Mosman's have a house, and he lived there.
He lived there, yeah.
Yeah, and so I used to hang out with him a bunch, and
okay, so you never trained with him, but you just hung out.
yeah, I hung out with him all the time.
That's why he knows you're a funny fucker.
Yeah. They would come over, like go in the pool. We'd go over there, have ping pong tournaments, and then like go to K1. That was how I met Duran, was through Jackson, and it was his birthday, and Banger was there. Now Banger's like my best friend, like I told you before we started.
He's the man, eh?
Yeah, I love him. So yeah, just kind of, I was spending a lot of time with them. I was probably, dude, I was young, and they're significantly older than me. Like,
yeah.
That's
How
kinda,
old are you now?
I'm 21.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and Jats is like 30, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I've always kind of had older friends, so I've kind of gravitated towards.
Yeah.
From the time I was 5 years old, I just kind of gravitated towards older people.
Yeah. Yeah, probably just because they were better at riding.
Better at riding,
and you
yeah.
just wanted to keep up, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, just kind of striving to be better.
Have you ever really thought about hydration? I bet you haven't, but I have, and that's why I am on a mission to hydrate action sports with my new company, SOTA Fuel. You can look at any study. Hydration is one of the key factors in human performance. And action sports is about as high performance as it gets, and there are extreme consequences to not being locked in. Find out more about how important hydration is for you, and if you're leaving performance on the table, by heading to sotafuel.com. So, all right, we'll go through, like, let's go back to like the Orange Brigade type days, you know. So you show a bit of talent, you're winning a lot of races, but there had to be like something fairly significant for KTM to give you that level of support. Like, how did that
Crazier
happen?
than you think.
Really?
Yeah. I won't name names, but there's somebody who ran the team, the Orange Brigade team, and my dad was friends with him, and my dad called him one day. I was getting support from Cobra, like I had mentioned, but my dad called him and said, hey, you know, like, there's no KTMs out there in the 50 class. You know, my kid's getting pretty good. Like, you know, what if we did like I'll buy one and then you give me a second 50 for half off? Guy says no. Like, not a chance, basically. And so my dad's like, all right, you know, it is what it is, whatever. Like, my dad was just trying to, like...
Just cut costs a bit.
And help them out.
Yeah.
Like, propose it to him in a way that's like, I'm going to help your brand. And cut costs, ultimately, yeah, but, like, he was also...
But there was an opportunity. He saw an opportunity.
He saw an opportunity, and my dad's always been that way, like, you know, kind of go a different route. And so there's no chance, was what we were told. About 9 months later... we show up to a race, and it was just like an area qualifier. And, normally I would park with my buddies or whatever, and we had nobody that was going that day, so we just parked by ourselves next to a guy with a 50. And he unloads it out of the truck, can't get it to start. My dad, he's pretty mechanically, smart, inclined. And so he worked on all my bikes, and this dude can't start his 50. And my dad goes and helps him. And then we're parked with this guy. We start chatting. We go and race. There was nobody there. I won by probably 30 seconds. Like, again, I wasn't really racing anybody, but I come off, and the guy's like, hey, what do we got to do to get you on a KTM? And my dad's like, well, I don't know. Like, whatever. They talked it out. 4 days later, we were rolling up to KTM to pick up 6 motorcycles. The guy we ended up parking next to was John Eric.
I was going to say, was it John Eric?
The president of KTM.
Wow.
He has a kid who is we were probably a couple months apart in age. And that was how it worked out. And actually, still to this day, one of my very close friends, John Eric,
he is a very good guy.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So when I stopped, or when I took my break, I actually trained him and his kid on the weekends, and I was training some other people during the week or whatever, and then I trained him and his kid on the weekends because his youngest son is sick on a downhill mountain bike.
Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah.
And John Eric had actually, I don't know if he had stopped fully riding moto, but was riding less for sure. And so he called me and was like, hey, he was running the USMCA at that point, and I had signed up to be a coach, and he saw that on there, and he was like, hey, come and help me and Kai out, and, I'll pay you some money and go to the track with us. And yes, that was what I did for probably 2 or 3 months just on the weekends. And it's cool. But
that's unreal.
Yeah, the president of KTM called in 6 bikes for me, which is insane. And looking back now, kind of like I said, no better time to do this, right?
Yeah.
I truly believe there's a time and a place for everything.
Oh, 100%.
Everything happens for a reason. And so, I feel like that was, it happened for a reason. There was a reason that we were there that day.
Yeah, that's one of just life's crazy.
And just my dad being a nice dude, the kid could have been way better than me. He could have beat me, and my dad would have helped him anyway. That was how my dad always was and still is.
I love that.
But yeah, just off of one nice, thing, it worked out for me in the craziest way.
So cool. I got one of my best friends to this day. I'm his son's godfather. He moved into our town. I was working at a Kawasaki dealership. He came in. I tried to sell him a Kawasaki. He didn't want one. Went and bought a KTM. Saw him at the track with his new KTM 2 days later. I'm like, fuck this guy. And it was 40 degrees, 100 degrees.
Yeah.
Crazy hot, full summer Florida heat. He goes out, does 2 laps on this brand new KTM, gets a flat rear tire, starts loading up the bike to leave because he doesn't have any tools, doesn't know how to fix it. So I've gone over, I'm like, fuck, bring your bike over here. We had the quick shade and the whole setup. My dad changed his tire, and then he went over, and we're like, dude, go get your chair and sit under here. Hung out with us that day. That was fucking 20 years ago. He's
haven't looked back since.
One of my best friends to this day. It's crazy just those little moments in your life.
Yeah.
By leaning in and doing the right thing. You just don't know what
you really don't know
effect.
what will come from it.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's I never understood really when I was younger. My dad always helped everyone, and I never understood why. And now that I'm older, I try to help everybody that I can, whether it's kids that are, just starting Supercross, or maybe a kid on a 65 or whatever, it could be anybody, but you just never know. And, I think it's most important to be a good person and a good human, right? If you can help somebody, I feel like you should. But also, you truly never know what could come from it.
Oh, man, 100%, eh?
Yeah.
So you get these bikes, and then that's obviously just a massive kind of step forward in
Yeah.
your like career almost.
Yeah. I went to Loretta's that year. I think I was like one of 2 KTMs on the line at Loretta's that year.
In the 50
in the
class.
50 class, yeah. The KTM wasn't that great at the time. Like, it had a clutch issue when it got hot. So, and they kind of knew that as well. But then after that, I started doing all the testing for like the KTM 50s. And,
like what Zacho was doing.
Yeah. And actually, kind of to circle back to what we were just saying, one of my mechanics and best friends, Scott Youngstrand,
Yeah, okay.
who's half brothers with Michael Sleater, is somebody super close to me and helped me out. He was my mechanic my first year of Supercross, but the only reason that was even an option was because I had tested with him when I was 7 years old on a KTM 50.
No way.
Yeah, so that was super cool too, like an awesome opportunity.
Did you go to Austria for that?
I didn't go. I just did it here.
Yeah.
But you know, like I set up the bikes for like the next 5 years. So like bar position, lever position, all the things like that was how I set it up. At one point I did suspension testing. That was like basically it was called A kit for like a 50.
No way.
Yeah. Which was cool. I did like some tire tests. So all things like, you know, that are just looking back, like I didn't really know what I was doing then, but to look back, like it's so cool. Like I got to set up a bike for people to go and buy. Like they bought my setup. That's sick.
So it kind of you stood out a little bit just because you're on the KTM before so many other kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and that kind of led me into like because I was on KTM, I got a Fox deal because of it. I was one of the youngest Fox like elite riders, and I was with them like all the way up until pretty much I went pro. There's like a couple I don't even want to say years because I don't even think it was full years, but there were some times where I rode for like a team that, you know, conflicted and I had to go to a different gear brand. But like I was the only guy at Geico that had the one-off gear deal when I was on the 150 and actually the 250 as well. My whole stint there, I had a one-off Fox deal. So it was just little things like that the KTM kind of at a young age it helped me, and then, you know, 65s you all kind of blend. But yeah, on a 50 that was important.
So who were some of the kids you were racing at that time? Like who were your main rivals?
Ryder D.
Yeah.
LeBlanc.
Yeah.
Reynolds. My boy Voland.
Yeah.
He came a little bit later, but
so you guys went through AMS together.
Yeah.
That's sick.
I actually wasn't sure how we were gonna get along when I got there because like we've raced each other a good amount.
Really?
We laugh about it now, and this is a funny story. We were at a local race at Glen Helen, and I'm pretty sure I didn't beat him. He says I waxed his ass, but I'm pretty sure I didn't even beat him. I know I beat him one moto, but they protested me.
Really?
And they tore my bike apart, and I think it was Mike Burkeen maybe. You know, he measures, and he's like 63 cc's. So I didn't even have a 65. I had a 63.
That's awesome.
But yeah, Voland, LeBlanc, Romano,
yeah, right.
you know, guys like that.
Yeah.
That was all in that age group.
Yeah. So when did it all get like super, super serious?
As soon as I got the 150 deal with Geico.
Yeah. So how does that all come about?
So we have a family friend, Bruce Murata.
Oh yeah.
Used to work for Alias at the time.
Yeah.
2016, Christy LaCurl was in charge of Orange Brigade, and my dad, trying to be cost effective, was like, let's race 85 this year, and you don't have to win. Like, it was kind of whatever. My dad called Christy to tell her that I was going to race 85. Christy told my dad, not a chance. We'll do whatever it takes as KTM for you to race 65 because your kid will go out and win pretty much every race. So they stepped up their support, gave me pretty much whatever I needed, and I raced 65 in 2016. I'd won, I would say, mostly everything besides maybe Freestone. And I'd never won a moto at Loretta's, so first moto, I went out and I won by 45 seconds.
Damn.
Second moto, I went out and won again by 30 seconds. And after the first one, I won by 45. Bruce worked for Alias. I was obviously a Fox guy, so it was a little bit conflicting. But Bruce is a great friend, and that did not matter. He took me straight from the podium, straight to the Geico rig. I literally went to the Geico rig with my pants on, my boots on, and no jersey. And I'm sitting like we are now, and we're talking to my shack, and we're in there for an hour and a half, and I'm tired, dude. Like, I just came off of a moto. Like, I'm young too, so I'm not like fully engaged, and there's a lot of big words getting thrown around, and I'm just kind of there. Yeah. And he slips out a piece of paper and slides it across, and he's like, "You guys want to take a look at that?" And my dad's like, "Yeah, sure." And so we're reading it, and it's like 4 or 5 year deal, $60,000, and I see $60,000, and I'm like, that's a lot of money. Like, I didn't understand how much money that was at the time. And so then second one, like I said, I won again, back to the Geico rig. Sort of the same conversation. I kind of covered everything the first time, but the second time it was, a little more in depth. And by the end of the week, I pretty much had decided that's where I was going. I'd wanted one championship. I had a bike issue in the other, but I probably should have won both. I think I was leading or second at the time, which would have given me the overall. Had my bike not shut off. So, I went, I believe 4 for 6. I won 4 out of 6 motos in the 65 class, and that was good enough to get a Geico deal, which is insane to think about.
So was that $60,000 a year for 4 years?
Yeah. See right there, 181.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Yeah. If I would have, forget what happened. I think something happened to, I think the choke somehow turned on, like halfway through the race. And
that's a freak thing.
Yes, I must have got hit by like a clump of dirt or something. But I was in. If you could go back up, let's see. Yeah, so let's see. If I go 1, 2, 1, then I win that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what. And then you got.
But yeah,
Jackson Bennick, Parker Ross, Evan Ferry.
This is in like the open class technically, so it was kind of a mixed age group. But
yeah, Casey Cochran.
Yeah. Some good dudes in there.
Yeah. Owen Covell. Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a...
it's crazy to look at. Like, I've never looked at this before, so...
yeah, that is wild, eh?
But yeah, the other one I won was the 10 to 11 65 class.
Yeah.
But
so
yeah.
At this point, are you getting contingency for winning this through KTM? Or
I believe so.
Are you making any money?
I don't know, though. Like, I personally was making, like... I think I got, like, some bonuses from Fox. But like Reynolds was making, as far as I'm concerned, and maybe he could correct me if I'm wrong if he's out listening to this, but pretty sure he was making like 6 digits a year.
I heard that as well.
I'm pretty sure like Monster gave him a RV at one point. Like, you want to talk about raking in bread, he was doing that.
Really?
I was not, up until I got on the 150.
Okay.
But yeah, up until then, we were still struggling. Like, there's a guy, you probably know his name's Brent Myron. They call him China.
Yeah.
He used to work for Tedesco, for Wyndham. He was living at our house, and he was my mechanic that year at Loretta's. And my dad was so cheap. China was like, hey, you need a new clutch before the next moto. My dad's like, we didn't bring a spare clutch. Like, my kid's easy on the clutch. We don't need a spare. And China's like, bud, I'm going to go to KTM and buy you a new clutch. Like, we're either getting a new clutch from me or from you. One of us is going to get it. Like, it's not, he was racing 65s like we were factory. And my dad's trying to do it in the most cost-effective way possible. So that was kind of cool. Like, that kind of gave me my first glimpse of, like, how things are treated at the pro level.
At a high level.
Yeah, so... yeah, I had a star offer. After that week, I pretty much had options from everyone.
Oh, true.
Reynolds, Ryder D, Romano rode for Cowie.
Yep.
So it wasn't like a full option, but I want to say that like if I called them was like, hey, I want to ride for Team Green, they would have made it work. I had a star contract, which it wasn't as good. I had to ride the 85, which I don't think was as good. Looking back, like, you know, you could say I made a bad decision, but I don't look at it that way. Like the Geico thing, it happened for a reason again. Like,
yeah. And that was the best.
Yeah.
Like if you look at the champions,
it truly was. Like, yeah, I mean, you could look back now and say whatever you want. There's, you know, opinions. It is what it is. But at that time, it was equal to Pro Circuit, and Star was actually like, you know, a step below at that point. And also Geico was like a family to me. They from the first day I went and walked through the shop, everyone from mechanics to the higher ups to the janitor, like everyone was so nice and like so welcoming, and that was something that I gravitated towards because, like, you know, Moto's cutthroat. Like we've kind of touched on that, but Moto is cutthroat, and you know, you obviously had Bobby Reagan in here. If you don't win, you're pretty much out. My Shaq, opposite. He was, you know, he was very much an advocate of like, we'll race pros when it's time, and you know, we'll do what it takes to get there, and however your road is, that's the road we'll take. Like, if you go pro when you're 20 or you go pro when you're 17, like, don't matter to me. It's just, let's make sure you're ready. And so that was also something like that was very, I don't know, like, it gives you that reassurance, you know?
Yeah.
And he was willing to do whatever it took. Like, to build one of those 150s was $60,000.
Really?
And I had 6 of them. Yeah.
That's loose.
Yeah, you could do the math on that.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
A big paycheck. Plus, only one mechanic could work on it, and they had to be pretty trained to do that. So I had a full-time guy that with me everywhere, plus my salary, like my bonuses. Yeah, it's a big operation to run a 13-year-old on a 150.
That is insane. Pull up some pictures of that thing.
Yeah. While he's pulling it up.
Was it sick?
Oh, it was super sick. It was super sick. While he's pulling this up, my Shack at one point offered to build me a KTM 85 with black plastics, and I was going to run out of like the factory connection rig because this costs a lot of money. They knew it wasn't the best bike. Like, Supermini class is gnarly.
Oh, yeah.
And they were going to build me a blacked out 85 KTM, and I would have been out of the Geico shop and out of the Geico rig with a blacked out KTM 85.
Why were they going to do that? Just because this wasn't as competitive?
Yeah, it wasn't as competitive. It costed a lot of money. And yeah, just a big price tag.
Dude.
If you go back, you could see like the throttle body on there.
Yeah.
Everything was custom besides the front brake lever. That was the only part on there that wasn't like a one-off made.
That's insane.
It was fuel injected.
True.
Yeah. Like the throttle body on there was, I believe it was a KTM 390, like a street bike.
Yeah.
Throttle body. So yeah, it was like the Frankenstein machine, but it was an incredible opportunity for me. Like,
yeah.
I didn't even really necessarily care about being competitive. I wanted to ride that bike because me and one other person have ridden it, like raced it, you know? And for that opportunity, I could not pass it up. But yeah, the thing barked, dude. Like, there's some YouTube videos.
Yeah, let's watch some. What was the one that Coop was on compared to yours?
Probably like same if I had to guess, but
because who was he? He wasn't Geico.
No.
JGR, that's right.
Yeah.
Yep,
JGR.
yep.
But you know, like mine was the first ever fuel injection.
Yeah, so you just got smoked off the start.
Yeah.
So just who's that Aussie gear?
Whoa.
Who's that? Listen to that thing.
Oh, dude, terrible start. It was so, like, compared to a normal Supermini, it was so heavy.
Yeah.
You know, like you had to shift. On a normal Supermini, you could rev that thing out in second gear. The comments on this video are floating the valves.
Really?
Yeah, I'm sure. But that was how you had to, like...
Yeah, you didn't really have a choice.
You had to ride it that way. It wasn't, like, a good enough bike at that time to, like, ride it like a real four-stroke.
Yeah. Yeah, it was still basically a two-stroke.
Yeah. It didn't have enough power or torque. It had more torque than one of these, like, two strokes, but
then it just went flat.
yeah. So you had to, like...
Just keep shifting and shifting
Yeah.
and shifting. Yeah, it's the trip, eh? Because, dude, Super Minis, power to weight is phenomenal. The way that they get those things to move. Like, imagine...
Faster than a 125.
Imagine Deegan's Super Mini, like
Yeah.
his last.
Like, Voland had a Super Mini that I had raced him this year. And, it was built by KTM.
Yeah.
I don't know what I think Deegan's was a Twisted.
It was a Twisted, yeah.
Which is probably, like, Jamie's pretty much like my second dad.
He's a legend, eh?
I know that thing was sick, but Volan had one. I don't know if it was more one-off or not than Deegan's, but it shredded, dude. Like,
really?
It was sick.
How much better would it have been than yours?
I would say probably a fair amount.
Like a very...
Yeah.
Go to I want to see Hunter like riding back then. I want to see the style back then.
Yeah, I wonder if there's some...
There you go, Transworld Motocross.
That's on a 250 right there.
Go back to
that one's on Supercross.
My name's Yoder, and I'm in for the...
Oh, this is on the 150?
Yeah. Getting ready for Monster Cup.
Crazy.
Last year didn't go so good.
Was Supercross a bit better on it, or was it harder?
Yeah, Supercross
I was
was
gonna
better.
say Supercross might have been a bit better,
First
eh?
year I had the mini major. I won the 65 class, and Transworld gives out some good prizes, so you got to go for the top spot.
Look at the little fella. Yeah, you were a ripper.
Little Dragon's back right there.
Yeah.
Milestone.
This year I'm gonna try and win.
I miss Milestone.
Me too.
And, hopefully
It's a shame that Milestone and Star West are gone.
Yeah. True OGs of SoCal Moto.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to love Star West. That place was awesome. Dude, WP suspension too.
Yeah, it was a KTM 85 front end.
Yeah. I mean, that thing ripped.
It definitely ripped.
Yeah, I could see how it would be a bit better on Supercross.
Yeah.
You were kind of lanky back then.
Yeah, a little bit, huh? Boy
then-
kind of had some style as well.
Yeah.
He's throwing some scrubs right there, which is crazy. First probably year on Supercross.
Yeah, it fucking blows me away what kids could do on bikes. Eh?
Oh, insane.
Yeah, that's it.
The younger
So that
kids,
thing-
the younger kids too. I swear they're getting more style. I don't know if it's because that's what they watch.
it's
Like
100% what that is.
like when I was growing up, I was consuming like the Dungy, you know,
Yeah.
like the very like I don't want to call it square, but like, you know, just a very efficient style.
yeah,
Like,
don't use too much body.
and so like even now that's kind of how I ride. I think a little bit of like just efficient and, you know, not too much gas, not too much brake, just even.
Yeah.
So-
yeah. No, you could see
Kids
I
now, they got that thing upside down, revving. Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah, it actually is. It is crazy. I mean, even you just go to Parlour.
Yeah,
There's just kids on 60s. I don't know who the fuck they are.
not a clue.
Just ripping past me.
Some of
bro.
these kids, not that it's the wrong approach, because I don't think any of it's the wrong approach. Some of these kids aren't even racing nowadays. They're going straight 65s, 85s, to the ramps, to the hills,
Yeah.
and they're born free riders, dude. And that was not an option for me.
No.
But it's insane. Like, I think it's sick. Like, do whatever you want. Like, that's what dirt bikes are for. Dirt bikes aren't made to just race.
Just race, yeah.
Like, do whatever you want, but like, crazy approach as well. Like, to have a kid and to be like, yeah, you don't got to race. Like,
Well, probably one of the most famous people on two wheels right now is Suronster.
yeah.
Dude has millions of
and nobody's
subs.
seen his face.
No
either.
one knows who he is.
Yeah.
And he just fucking...
He's probably outside right now.
Yeah,
I think he's probably a Costa Mesa local.
Yeah, probably just ripping the streets
Yeah.
somewhere. But
No.
there is, and you look at the whole Stasic thing. So now kids are going from like Stasics to Surons to Starks.
When I was a kid, you had
There's
to
a
learn
whole
how to pedal
pathway.
that thing.
Yeah, there's
Now-
a whole pathway.
And
where
now you
don't
get on
even
it and
have
you're
to-
twisting grip,
Yeah.
and you're 2 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. The evolution it can and will be crazy, I think. Like, for all the reasons you just said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you're skipping the bicycle phase and you're going straight to
The throttle phase.
the throttle phase. Yeah. So,
I just can't wait to have like a little 2-year-old and just be like, here you go, bro.
is that something you look forward to?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, big time.
I was thinking about that the other day, like, for all the reasons I just said, like, when we started, like, the strain and the stress and the relationship side of it, like, having a kid, I hope my kid does not, why I say this, I don't know. I hope my kid, if he wants to race, we're going to go all in, and, like, I need him to be there, because I was never half in. But if we're not all in, I do not want him to race whatsoever.
Yeah, we were having this conversation.
Let's go and ride.
Yeah.
Let's have fun. Dude, let's go to the desert, because I never got to do that. So let's go to the desert. They can get, a little bit of what I didn't get. Let's go ride on the weekends, or let's go all in.
Yeah, we were talking about this just the other day, and I was like, I just think there's a better way to make a living.
100%.
Like if you...
My kid's probably getting a golf club.
Yeah, I mean, your kid will do what they do, I guess, and you kind of can't...
You can't control it.
You can't really control their interests, and I guess... Yeah, it's funny, I was watching Villapoto's thing. Have you seen his kids?
It popped up on my YouTube. My dad actually moved. My dad's a mover, so he'll move from house to house.
Yeah.
So my dad just moved him from Newport to Temecula like 4 months ago or something.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, I was watching some YouTube last night and his thing popped up.
Yeah.
I didn't watch it. I actually went to bed, but
yeah, so he's basically... His kids are just all in, and it's one of those things where he was like, yeah, I didn't really want to do it. We tried baseball, we tried football, we did all these things. The kids just wanted to ride.
Yeah.
And then he said, because my outside impression, when I see that, I'm like, bro, what the fuck are you doing? Look at what you went through. Like him and his dad had all those issues that they had.
Hardly had a relationship, I think, until the end.
Yeah. And it's just like, you want to sign yourself up for that. And I was like, dude, fuck. And then I watched the video, and then he's like, this is what they want to do. Who am I to stop my kids from doing what they want to do? And I'm like, fuck, that's very fair, bro. Like, that's a tough thing to
You know what else
argue,
is hard, too, in his shoes is like, I see somebody, it could be anybody, kids that are children of former professionals, stars. Like, it would be very tough for the kid. I never had any of that pressure. If I didn't win, it was whatever. I wasn't really expected to win. For those kids and for the keyboard warriors out there and the dudes that have a dirt bike because, and they don't really have an idea of racing, those are going to be the toughest critics, right? And, like, if you don't perform to how your legend of a father did, which is going to be very hard.
Yeah.
Not many people are Villapoto.
No.
Like, it's so tough. And the constant comparison, like, it is so heavy. So heavy.
Yeah, and there's that, and there's that whole pressure that comes along with that. But again, if that's what your kid wants, like, you have to be okay with it. I think the thing, at least this is what I think, and this is how I'm going to try and approach my life with kids in the future, would just be like, it's got to be on them.
Yeah.
And you've just got to support them, and you've just got to, if that's what they want to do. But I just don't think it's right to want things for your kids.
Which is, we'll take a step back. 98% of moto parents want it more than their kid does. It's insane.
Yeah.
My dad is opposite. He didn't really care. My dad actually is like, shoot, up until I got this club contract extension, he wanted me to like go find a part-time job. Because he's like, dude, like, he's a little bit bent up about the whole Geico thing, understandably. Like we talked about, so much sacrifice, and then that all got like taken away from him in a good way when I was 13. Like, there's no more pressure on him, you know. We just kind of had to figure out how to get to the races, which was easy at that point. And then I had my path laid out like a week before Geico shut down. I was not a week, but it was about 4 to 6 weeks before Geico officially shut down. I was in the office negotiating a pro contract, and we had that all laid out right in front of me. And then for it to get taken away, like, it put me in a dark spot, but it put him also in like a tough position. And then our problems kind of started from there, because I think he wanted me to just like be done with it, you know. He loves it, he supports me, he loves it, but I think he also despises it as well, just for those reasons, like, which is understandable. You know, we've never really talked about it. I don't know if I really want to talk about it with him.
Okay.
Like, I'm kind of at the point where I kind of, you know, like, I'm in charge of myself now. I'm an adult, but part of it is like, I don't know if I really want to know that side from him.
In what way?
I probably should, but like, it was very tough for him, and then it put us in a tough spot.
Yeah.
Like, just relationship wise, and I think diving back on that is not something I really want to do. Like, those were
dark times.
Yeah. It's like, just put me and him in a tough spot. That was probably about the time that me and him didn't really have a relationship. I told him to fuck off, word for word. I didn't want him there anymore. I felt like he knew everything. I felt like I knew everything, and I knew what was better. And I think that all kind of strained from, you know, like, we had everything laid out in front of us, and I had my road paved, and then it got slashed, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I just don't, it's hard times, dude. It was for 4 years or something that we, like, I think we struggled as a family because, you know, I had a lot of mental strain on me. So did he. My mom was trying to hold it together, and yeah, it was just tough.
So
there's times like I kind of touched on it earlier. I'll talk about it a little more. Like, I wasn't sure if I really wanted to share it, but we're into it now, and you know, I've never really told anybody this, not even my closest friends, but there was times like I was staying at people's houses. Like, my parents were split up. I didn't have really a relationship with my dad. So like, me and my mom were trying to figure out like where to stay. At one point, they were split up. My parents have been together my whole life, and they were split up. And at 17, that was really tough for me because I couldn't really fathom them being apart.
Plus, you probably felt like it was your fault.
A little bit. Like, I think probably in like a subconscious way, a little bit. Like, you know, because I was being a dick to my dad, and like I said, mom's trying to defend me. He's getting pissed off at us now. So yeah, I think probably in a subconscious way. I know that there was some other things that that caused it, but you know, there was times like I was staying at people's houses and you know, showing up to the track. Like, there were certain times like I couldn't go to my house because my dad was there, and like my mom didn't want us to there alone, and so I would have to go over there, whether it was, you know, say 7 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night, like go pick up stuff, pack my gear bag, stay at somebody's house, get up early, like go and get breakfast, show up to the track, pretend like everything was normal to trainers, mechanics, like the people that were maybe closest to me, have a shit day of riding because like I was under that load, and like I just had to play it off, like, and be tough through it, you know. And that was really hard. Like I did a few months of that, and it just was so hard. Like now people will kind of understand there's more layers to it, but at the time, like, I would just show up and pretend like everything was fine and dandy, you know. Like I would lie and make excuses and tell people, oh yeah, like stayed at my grandma's house because it's family tradition. You know, we always sleep at grandma's house, you know, the week of Christmas. Like that wasn't the case. Like I was just bullshitting because I didn't want to tell people the truth. But that is the realities. Like, you know, people, I too struggle with it, like judging people before you know them, right? Like they say, don't judge a book by its cover. You don't actually truly know somebody until you've met them, and like
and had a real conversation.
Real conversation. Like that goes for anybody in the world. And so like that is something that when I look back on that is something I really take. Like if somebody, you know, it could be whatever, like give you a rude response, or you know, somebody's nice. Like it could be anything, right? You truly don't know somebody until you...
Yeah, what they're going through.
Yeah. And so that was like a kind of a big learning lesson for me.
Yeah. So you do the years on Geico where it's going good.
Yeah.
And then, so you signed a pro contract with them?
I was...
Or it was in the process?
It was in the process, yeah.
So what did that contract look like?
Couldn't tell you like exactly I would love to tell you how much money it was. I can't really remember, to be honest. It was actually only one meeting that we had. I was 15 at the time, I believe, maybe 16, and you know, kind of sat in a room like this. Ziggy was there, My Shack was there, and then some of the other higher ups at Geico. And they sat me down, and I think the first question they asked me was, so do you want more money or more years? Like, you know, we can do one or the other, but I said, like, you know, give me a couple years, like I can make the money.
Yeah.
My thing is, like, you never know what's going to happen, right? So, like, I always played it safe. So I went with, like, 3 or 4 years of pro, and I still had, like, 2.5 or 3 years on my amateur contract. So I was looking at, like, 5 to 6 years.
Of runway, yeah.
Which is why it was tough on the relationship of me and my dad. Like, I went from out of a toy hauler to that, like, and then back to the toy hauler.
Yeah.
Like, that's also what people don't understand is that next year I rode for a team, a Honda associated team. They screwed me completely. And they basically signed me to try to get my Geico bike that I had that Geico had given me so they could take it and see what was inside of it. And I didn't give it up. They fired me ultimately. I flew home from Charlotte, North Carolina, and I went to Jamie's shop. Like I said, Twisted Jamie is like my second dad. I grew up in the same complex as him.
Oh, sick.
I've known him since I was 4 or 5 years old.
He's honestly such a good guy.
Yeah, and so he had sorted out 2 bikes from Urive for me.
Oh, yeah.
That one was a practice bike and one was a race bike. And then I actually bought Aiden Kiefer's practice Honda.
No way.
That was going to be my practice bike. So he had pretty much roached that thing. And then it was my practice bike. And at the time, I don't even know if he was even in the B class because I was in the A class. So, yeah, that was, and I paid, you know, like we had people to help us out, but I paid my own money. You know, because I told my dad to fuck off, so he wasn't helping me no more, and I was basically figuring it out on my own. And Jamie had helped me basically sort out sponsors, relationships that I didn't have, and set me up like with a mechanic. And I did my own program. So I went from toy hauler to the highest level, guaranteed pretty much until it wasn't, and then back to the toy hauler in a matter of 2 years. Like, that'd be pretty hard for anybody to go through.
Oh, yeah, dude, 100%. So what was the conversation with, the conversation with Geico, they basically come to you and they're like, hey, we're shutting up shop. Like, we're so sorry, but...
it really sucked because I had qualified for Loretta's to go race the 250B mod class. I'd raced the year before in the stock class. I'd won the 450B stock championship, got third in the other one. I was 15 when I did that. So, like, the youngest guy out there, they basically sent me out there, like, just to go and race. They didn't really care what I got. So, the Podium was, like, blew our expectations. And then the next year, the bike wasn't as great compared to, like, the Star and the Pro Circuit. But it was like 2 weeks before Loretta's, they called me and they're like, hey, because of COVID, we can only send the Sprinter van. And they said, we don't really care if you race or not. Like, it's up to you. And so my thought process was, I've been going to Loretta's for my whole life. I've struggled, like, not struggled, but it's hot there. Like, you know, like it's a big ask to go there. And so my thought process was, why don't we skip it and just hang out? Like, you know, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm in the process of doing a pro deal and we'll be good. And so I skipped Loretta's. And then it was during the week of Loretta's, they called me and they said, hey, you better start looking for a ride because we're not sure if we're going to keep going or not. And I'm literally watching, like, my moto on the track at Loretta's after I've skipped it and stayed home. And I'm watching it on my phone, and then I'm getting a call that I better go look for another ride. And how do you call somebody that's at the race that you've avoided and say, hey, got a ride for me? That doesn't work. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword for me. Like, looking back, I probably should have gone. But when you get told that it's okay if you don't and, you know, you'll be good, like, you know, like, it's really no sweat off your back. You're just like, okay, whatever. Like, I think that's what most people probably would have done, right?
So that's probably the bit that really pissed your dad off.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think he's bitter more that he's not mad at anybody in particular. It's more of the fact that, like, what we had got taken away. That's just the nature of life, unfortunately. That's the cards that I was dealt.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's not mad at anybody. It is what it is.
Yeah, but I mean that is
He also like, for him, he holds things, I think it was very important to him and he holds that really close.
Oh, dude, I get that.
I fully understand it too. Like, that was a very big stepping stone in our lives, you know, like, for the both of us, for the whole family. And so for that to kind of get, like, snatched, I fully get it. For me, I think I've just kind of continued business as usual. So for me, it definitely affected me. It 100% did. I would say up until probably 2 or 3 years ago, it affected me. But for me, like, it was like, okay, Geico shut down. Now, like, what's my next step?
Yeah.
For him, it was like, Geico shut down. Now what do we do? Do we keep racing? Do we not keep racing? Do we?
And so when was the point where you and him stopped working together, essentially?
Right after that.
So it was right after. So this was kind of like the catalyst for all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dude, it's fucking brutal.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine. And I mean, the extra context of, like, them saying it's COVID year. If you don't want to go to Loretta's, it's all good.
Yeah.
You're about to sign your pro deal. Like, hindsight's 2020. Probably should have gone and raced Loretta's.
Probably.
But you don't know what you don't know, right?
That's been my new saying of the year. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. And so your dad's invested so much money.
Probably
so much
$1 million.
time. Yeah, so much effort.
And we did not have $1 million to give up. I can promise people that. Like, there are some people that do. We did not. Like, it's not all in one year, but it probably, on average, was $60,000 to $100,000 a year to go and race.
Yeah. More, dude. Easily.
Yeah, that's on average of
Yeah.
doing it the cheapest way possible. Like, the cheapest. We have a collection of sprockets on the wall in our garage that have no teeth on them. It's just a round thing of metal, and there's 12 of them up there. So we ran things like to the ground.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, cheapest. The guys I was racing against had fresh bikes every, month. I had the same bike all year, and we were changing parts pretty much when they failed. Like, we weren't keeping up on. He was keeping up on it as best as he could with the budget we had, but it was a loose program.
Yeah. Yeah, so I could see how heartbreaking that would be.
Yeah.
I want to say a massive congratulations to the team at Fist Handwear, because starting right now, Fist is proud to be officially distributed in the US through a partnership with Parts Unlimited, bringing their gloves to riders all across the US. That means it is easier than ever to get your hands in a pair, no matter where you are. I've been banging on about how amazing Fist gloves are for the last 10 years, and now it's easier than ever for US riders to get a pair of their own. If you've heard me talk about them on the podcast before, but never tried a pair of your own, now there's no excuse. No matter what you ride, motocross, BMX, road, or even on the job, Fist has a glove designed for every condition, from blazing heat to icy cold. Apart from being the best performing gloves in the world, they also have a design for any flavor, from wild prints and bold graphics to collabs with some of the world's best athletes. And it doesn't just stop at gloves. Fist has moto socks, tees, hoodies, and hats, the full kit and caboodle. I've trusted Fist for over a decade, and I don't plan on changing. Do yourself a favor, join the Fist army today at fisthandwear.co, or head in to your local dealer and tell them that they need to start stocking Fist. So what led to the point of you saying I'm done with him?
I don't even really remember. I can't really pinpoint it, to be honest. I just remember, you get to that point, I was going to the track on my own. Randy Lawrence was my trainer.
Yeah.
Known him my whole life, so it wasn't no influence from him. Randy actually is pretty much best friends with my dad. So it probably just stemmed from balls started growing, got some testosterone, got into a couple arguments, learned some new profanity words that I could use, and one thing led to another, and that's where you tell them to fuck off.
So you were just a bit of an asshole.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, I'd take probably most of the blame, because he comes to the races every weekend pretty much now, and we're cool.
Well, I was gonna say, so
we have sometimes at A2, I got into it with him, and probably again fault of my own, but I've had to sort of talk to him and say look, you got to realize he has a full-time job, and I also have a full-time job, and granted our jobs are different, they are still the same. I don't go to his job, right? Each Saturday, every weekend, is the most important day of the week for me. So we had a little spat before A2 at 6:30 in the morning. But I've tried to tell him, you have to realize when I'm getting up, I wake up at 6:30. The first thing I do is think about how we're going to perform the best we can today. So when you come at me with something and I fire back at something, you have to almost take it.
Yeah.
If I'm being a dick 7 days out of the week, that's one thing. But I'm under a lot of stress from myself. It's self-induced, but I put a lot of pressure on myself, and, I don't always think clearly, like, so when we have that issue, like I told him, you have to just take it. I know that sucks, but like, it's the one day out of the week that you got to work with me here.
Mm-hmm.
Because at A2, I told him we made it literally 2 minutes out of the driveway, and we're full blown yelling at each other in the car.
Yeah.
Me, my mom, and my girlfriend, and he's driving, and I'm sitting behind him, and we're yelling at each other over a team hat. And I told him, I said, listen, I said, word for word, I said, listen, motherfucker, I'm not going to keep yelling at you. I said, turn the fucking car around and drop yourself off at home, because I'm not going to keep doing this.
Yeah.
I said, I've done this shit without you for the last 4 years. I do not need you to go today. It's not going to change my life. I'll figure it out on my own. Because me and my mom have been doing it, and we've got it. We do not need you here. He whipped that car around and dropped himself off back at home.
That's crazy.
And he got out. He didn't even drop himself off at home. He dropped himself off on our street, and he walked back home probably a mile. And he showed up that day, because I think he probably realized. And I also realized. But there's still things like that happen that, people don't realize. They don't know about. And, like, it's a part of it. Like, what my point that I was getting at was, my job is racing at the highest level. His job is moving people. I get frustrated with him sometimes because he won't see me for 5 months. I live at Club. He lives out here in California. So I've made all this progress, right, in the last 5 months that he's pretty much hasn't seen. He hasn't been there. And then he'll come on Saturday, and it's only because he loves it and because he's so passionate.
Yeah.
But he comes in after the first qualifier, and he's just wide open, dude. He's revving, and he's like, you got to do this because Deegan did this. And like, I've got a film guy there who he's telling me, like, Deegan jumped this double out into the flats, and, because I landed on the backside, Deegan was faster. Dude, that was the only spot I was faster than Deegan on the track.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But he gets gets worked
excited.
up,
Yeah.
excited, because he cares.
Yeah.
And so I told him, if you're going to show up Monday through Friday with me and see what I do Monday through Friday,
Then you can.
then on Saturday, you can come and critique me. Because if I've made the same mistake 4 days in a row, on the 5th day, you can tell me. But what you see as a mistake could just be me.
Yeah.
It could be the way I do things. And I don't go to your work and tell you how to pack boxes, because I have no idea how to pack boxes. Just like you've never raced at the highest level, I've never packed boxes at the highest level. And so I would love for him to be more involved. He can't, because he needs to make money in order to survive. But at the same time, I need him to be less involved or less opinionated.
Yeah.
Because I'm paying somebody to break down film with me on the weekends. I've got Chad Reed as my on the bike trainer. I've got Brandon there, who's seen me ride every day of boot camp with Chad. They've worked together to work out the kinks. And so for my dad, he hasn't seen any of it. And then for him to come back, I feel like that's a little bit unfair, So I think we've got that worked out. But I think it's also part of it too, is just like, he hasn't seen me race in a while. I had the knee thing before A1. We didn't know if I was even gonna race. And then I go out and I do halfway decent, and he's just revved up. And it's like, all right, dude, pump the brakes. We just qualified decent. We haven't even raced yet. But he just gets fired up.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
So I love everything that you just said, and it's very real. And there's probably, I can think of some extremely famous racers that need to have this exact conversation with their dad.
Yeah.
It sucks, bro. It's so. Am I going too far, Griff? Are you gonna want to cut this out? Bro, it's just like,
leave it in and
it's so
take it how you want it.
Yeah, it's so that it's crazy that, and it's what you said.
That's through all of racing, though. That is from
mini bikes,
from 50s to top guys, and that you guys out there, fans, I'm looking at you right here. people that you look up to are dealing with the same issue that I deal with. I'm no different than anybody else.
Bro, worse than what you got it
Oh,
to.
way worse.
Yeah.
I don't say any of this. My dad's gonna watch this.
And by the way, your dad, I'll say, your dad came up to me the other day.
Yeah.
And
He told me.
He's like, dude, I'm the Hunter's dad. He's doing the pod. So like, I have context of like, your dad's so proud of you. And he's there, and he's frothing, and he's amped, and
he's frothing,
and that's where this comes from.
That's all.
But there's some riders that are like past riders that are friends of mine that they dealt with crazy parents, and like when you hear the shit, they would never say it on camera.
No,
but when you hear the shit that they went through, and the career that they had, and it's like they were taking money from them, and you're just like, fucking stop. Like, you can't be doing this to your kid.
Your own child.
Bro, it fucking drives me crazy.
No, it's I think this will probably and hopefully people will watch this and maybe I got the conversation started, but I hope this gives your whole fan base a little more context into the actual behind the scenes, because the behind the scenes is crazier than what you guys see on Saturday. Because there's guys out there that you say, oh my God, what is he doing? He's in 12th place. He's in 9th. How did this guy get 6th? He should be winning. Because there's more to it, dude.
Yeah.
It's
because he's just had a punch up with his dad in his RV behind closed doors.
Yeah. Because he
And
had
you
his
expect him
dad
to go out.
in a rear naked choke.
Yeah.
Or his dad had him in a rear naked
Yeah.
choke. Or in an arm bar because he qualified 4th instead of 1st.
Yeah.
We're not going to win all of them, dude. Just chill.
But, I mean...
I wish that... You know who nails it?
Who?
Dazzy Lawrence.
Mm.
And I know he gets hard on the boys. And I only say this because I've spent a good amount of time with them.
When did you spend time around them at Geico?
When they first came over, Geico.
Yeah.
You know, like I went to a race with them, like Mammoth. I wasn't racing, so I went, hung out with them. Like, I have a good relationship. I wouldn't say, it's kind of hard. I'm cool with Jet. I'm cool with Hunter. I see both of them. They say what's up.
Yeah.
I don't text them. I don't call them. But we're cool.
Yeah.
And same with Dazzy. Dazzy's always... I rode at Dazzy's last year, or at the dog pound, the Lawrence's, and Dazzy was helping me with suspension a year ago from today. So, good dude. But I wish more people could maybe take that approach. More dads. Because I feel like he's very, very smart, very applied to the program, and I think it's the right way. Like, there's a time where every kid probably needs to get a little smack on the ass, you know?
Yeah.
Jet probably, doesn't always behave. I could imagine.
Yeah.
But if Jet makes a mistake, Dazzy's also not kicking his head in for no reason behind the rig, you know?
Yeah.
And so I wish more people could see that.
Yeah, and it's funny. It's not funny. There's like a level of psychological abuse at play to where, so if you listen to this, you're like, wow, so there's top riders that have these crazy problems with their parents and they don't do anything about it. And it's like, okay, they're so entwined in the program and their life.
Yeah.
And there's like some money stuff at play, and then they've been so involved forever, and they've won before, and they've been the top guy before, and they're like, man, but I have been the best.
Yeah.
And he was here, and he was like this, and he was pushing me, and but maybe that's what I need. And that's what they'll tell you. They'll say to you, they'll be like, you can't win without me. You know that if I leave, you won't be able to do this.
What would you call that? Like
it's like psychological abuse.
Persuasiveness? Like
it's manipulation.
Manipulation, that is the perfect word for it.
And they're saying, you think that you could do this without me? You've never been able to do
Not a
this without me.
chance.
And no one knows you like I know
Yeah.
you. There's no way that you're going to be able to perform. You'll never win another race. You'll never win another championship.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've then got to you've got to put the big boy pants on
And say,
and say, fuck off. Not
Yeah.
many people are willing to do it. And it's just like breaking up with a girlfriend. I've been in relationships. I lived with the chick. We had fucking all the shit together.
Yeah.
We had the house. We had a fucking dog. And it's hard to leave.
it's very hard. Yeah.
Your whole life.
For anybody.
So what you're gonna just change your whole life mid-season because you've had a realization? Like there's so much at play, but I think that motocross is also I've thought a lot about this. I don't know if you can tell.
Yeah.
But motocross is a very unique sport because if you do anything else, a lot of stick and ball sports, a lot of like Olympic sports, there's coaches and there's programs.
Yeah.
And then you
you got to go to a school
go
for
to
it.
school and you're not at college playing football with your dad, armchair quarterbacking you
Yeah.
and washing, you know what I mean? There's a level of involvement that you have to have as a parent to get your kid to that level.
Yeah.
And then there's a structure where you kind of can still exist at the pro level, whether you become a practice mechanic or a trainer or this or a whatever that it is
Yeah.
that you're doing. And it's so common that person, and the problem is that person is not doing it because they have their kid's best interests at heart. So I think that's what you're seeing with Dazzy, right? And I genuinely think, and I know I've known that family
Yeah.
for a long time, so I feel quite educated to
Yeah.
say, if Dazzy thought that him only prepping the tracks at the dog pound was the best way for him to help the boys, that's what he'd do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that simple.
Yeah.
And there's other guys that they're ruining their kid's career.
Because they want to do all of it.
But they want it for them. They don't want what's best for the kid. They want what's
No.
best for them. So it's cool that you're this open about. You obviously didn't have it as bad as what
No.
some people had.
And I
it.
don't want it to come off as the
Yes.
poor me card because that's not how it's just
But it's the reality of what you went
just the
through.
reality. It's not poor me, cry for help. It's none of that. It's just I would say I'm not even on the bottom half of the worst of it. I would say, I've had it fairly good with my dad, and our relationship. But it just
That was part of your story.
it's part of the story, and it is the truth. We truly did wrestle in the front yard over arguments. He truly did not talk to me, and I didn't talk to him. And his phone number was blocked on my phone, and he was blocked on Instagram. Like, this is all true things, because for whether it was my doing or his doing or our doing,
It was definitely both of you.
yeah, it's just the truth. And I think people should know that.
Yeah.
Like, just is what it is. And there's people out there going through that right now.
Yeah. So you lose the Geico deal. You get these bikes. You got Aiden Kiefer's practice bike that he's done 4,000 hours in the
Yeah.
desert on.
Desert.
And then, so what's your path forward from there?
Fox stepped up again. I
Sick.
called Todd Hicks.
Yeah.
I said, hey, I'm riding for so-and-so. That just ended about 18 hours ago. Before I could finish, he said, yep, I got you covered. I didn't ask for anything yet. I literally called him, and he said, yep, I got you covered. And I had gear in 4 days. So put together a list of sponsors, got everything sorted, did it on my own, went and raced Loretta's. I got 5th. I think everyone that beat me was on, I want to say a factory team or a team of some sort.
What year was that?
That is
21?
2021.
What'd you race?
450, yeah. Open Pro Sport, 250 Pro Sport.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Levi Kitchen, he's
Yeah.
pretty good. Chance Hymas, pretty good. Preston Kilroy,
Yeah,
Cullen, and then Hunter Yoder.
yeah. So yeah, I think I got 2 5ths. And then obviously not really. Maybe if I would have won something or, done something a little bit better than 688, I would have probably had a better opportunity at something. Didn't have much for the next couple months, and then but I was actually riding Supercross either way, because I think I was probably going to maybe do West Coast, like on the program that I was on. I call it program. It was me and Jamie.
Yeah.
And then whatever support we could find. I had a guy, his name was Brian Gardner. He was sponsoring me, I think he paid for like maybe my training with Randy. I think he bought me a bike as well. Muckoff was paying me a little bit. So we had kind of like, piled up a little bit of money, but when I say a little bit, probably 20 grand.
So what'd you do with the Geico money?
It's in my savings account.
So you saved all that?
Yeah.
Really?
But I'll also, I say it's in my savings account. Right after this, I got a call from Tylube Honda for East Coast. And to kind of keep it short, that was the year it didn't go great. I was paying for my own practicing, paying for gas, paying for gas in the van, paying for a mechanic, paying for a trainer. 60 grand out the window in a matter of about, I would say, 5.5 months.
So you got paid 60 grand from them?
No.
That
I
was your Geico
spent
money.
60 grand of my own personal money to
On
go
that team.
race. Between paying for flights to go race when you travel East Coast,
Yeah.
It's big time.
Yeah.
So I spent 60 grand of my own money. So I made 60 grand each year I was at Geico and spent 60. That was the reality check of when I said, okay, maybe this ain't worth it anymore. Because if I got to spend 60 grand, I can't keep doing that. And it's not worth it for me. I'm not making any money. It's not like I spent 60 and made 55.
Well, there's not even fucking prize money per round.
No.
It's pretty wild.
And when you don't make main events, you really don't make any money.
Well, that's true too, especially on a 250.
Yes. And so, that was really tough. So I have a good chunk of money saved in like my personal savings account that I saved from Geico. But
Well, I think that even says a lot about your parents right there.
my mom, my dad too, he doesn't, I don't want to say he doesn't know how. He's smart with his money. He's always been frugal.
Yeah.
But my mom, especially, like, when I signed with Geico, they said, hey, like, you should make a business account. So we created a business account. And my mom actually handles all, payments for whether it's incoming or outgoing.
Yeah.
She handles everything. And so, she's, helped me a lot because I don't know how to do it. Like, I can keep track of some things, but, she's got spreadsheets and what it's going to cost and what we're going to make. And she's got it down to the cent pretty much. And that says a lot for sure. Like, she don't take anything. She don't charge me anything. She does it because she loves me. She's my mom. But, she put that money away for me. And so, it's like they taught me how to be frugal and how to save. I think you see a lot of kids, like some of the kids that I raced against, some of those names, they get a star ride and they roll up in $400, $500 Yeezys, and hoodies and shit that's fucking $800, $1,200. You're just like, at 13, I wanted that stuff too.
Yeah.
But I also felt like there was something else I might want down the road. So then I would save my money, and then that something else would come along, and I'd be like, oh, I really want that. And then maybe just wait, And that's how I've played my whole life. Like, I don't, the stuff I'm wearing, I didn't buy. Like, my girlfriend got this for me. Like, the shoes I bought for myself, and that's about it. But, like, that's how I live, is like very frugal. And I also want to make a lot of money too, like outside of moto. Like, I'm about to invest all of my money that I've got, like, into the stock market and, You know, like I think it'd be cool to own some rental houses and you know, just you see a lot of kids that are moto only, right? And then they come out, they've got some money that they've saved, but then you think about what maybe they could have had if they would have made some
investments along the
not
way.
that they made bad decisions,
Yeah.
but if they would have made some good decisions, you know?
Yeah.
And I want to be the guy that whenever this comes to an end or at the tail end of it, I can say I made, you know,
Good decisions.
arguably the best decisions I could have made at that point.
Yeah.
I didn't go buy a car because I could have or because I wanted it. Like, I drive a Prius right now. People laugh at me, but I drive a Prius, not because I want to, but because it was 30 grand used. You know, I spend probably $15 a month on gas filling that thing up. Like, I have a battery on it. I promise you, I would love to have a Ford Raptor or a truck or a BMW, you know, something sick like a Mercedes. But that's not like in the cards. Like, I could buy it and, you know, I could, you know, make do, but like that's not the best decision for me right now. And
There's part of me that kind of enjoys that now. And like my wife will talk about it as well. Where she
enjoys what?
Well, so having the money to buy something and then not buying it.
Yeah.
Like
I think it's cool.
Yeah, I know I definitely wasn't like that. I think it's like I don't know, it's almost like a trap that
100%.
there's like a society level trap.
Sorry, I'm looking at Tomac ripping out there on the big screen.
It's almost like a trap for society to where they like make you want things.
I want a
you
Porsche
want, you want the
GT3
things.
RS so bad. But then I look and I'm like, well, it's really only like, you know, probably after taxes, it's probably like 275, 300. Like, I don't have that kind of bankroll right now. But, you know, maybe in a couple years. But then I'm thinking, every year they come out with a Porsche GT3 RS. So I'm going to buy mine, and mine's going to be new only for so long.
For one day.
Yeah, until it touches the road.
Yeah.
And then it only gets older from there. And same with, you know, whatever. People spend money on stupid things all the time. But, like, I look at all those, like, call it materialistic things, and it's like, it's only cool for until it's not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's hard to... I think it's definitely designed for broke people.
Yeah.
to keep you wanting
100%
things that you kind of can't afford.
I also think too the coolest thing would be not having to have a job, right? Or to have enough money to like maybe you don't live the flashiest lifestyle, but like you got a house, you can pay the bills and you're not working and you can have a newer car, a nice house, like that's pretty cool too. You know, like I could drive the Prius until it dies pretty much.
You know who else drives a Prius?
So that's why I've got a Prius. And for the people that don't know, Jason Anderson.
and runs that Prius.
I'll tell you why.
He is a multimillionaire, by the way.
You want to talk about being frugal? That's the definition.
He's the king, dude.
I was at Paula one day, and I'd heard stories about him. He's just, dude, when he won his championship in the 450 class, which is a lot of money, he was selling hoverboards on the side. You talk about hustler.
No, that's the best.
For a couple $100, dude, he would sell you a hoverboard. But I was at Paula one day, and I was out of the back of this kind of ties in a couple different places. I was in the back of the Sprinter van, and he rolled in a Prius and popped his gear bag out of the back. The Cowie dude to set the chair out for him. He got dressed, rode, hopped in the Prius, went back to his house in Newport or wherever he lives, Laguna. And I'm thinking, that was fucking badass, dude. Like, he just drove here in a Prius. All he needed to bring was his gear bag. He didn't even bring his own chair. He brought a gear bag and a cooler. And the cooler people probably pay him money. So he gets dressed, he rides, and then he goes back to his house at the beach. He could have pulled up. You see a lot of, I'm not going to name names, but there's somebody out there that everyone would know that wants him to get a fill-in ride badly, who rolls around in Lambos and cars that are not his. And you're just like, you're showing up in these rigs that aren't yours, and you're going back to these houses that aren't yours. But like, where's your own bread at? You know, like, and so for Ando to pull up in a Prius, go back to his pad in wherever
Laguna with an ocean view,
to his wife who's whipping the brand new, mom SUV. I'm sure that's way cooler than him having a Ferrari, or like, I'm like, yeah, that guy's sick. That clicked, and that stuck with me. And
that's epic.
And about, I would say 2 years later, I got I did the pulp race, the LCQ.
Yep.
I made about 30 grand, and I went and got the Prius. And I made a promise to myself. So that year I did the pulp LCQ race was my first year. I never took a break necessarily, but it was my first year back. Racing Supercross in 2023. And I said, from here on out, I will never take my bike to the track again. I will only have to take a gear bag. And that's why I have the Prius. Save money. It's never going to be on me to handle my own stuff. And I'm going to save money.
That's so gangster.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Ando, this is the race.
Nah, this was last year.
Man, I remember, I can't remember what year it was. Maybe it was 17. I know Ando.
Oh, that one right there, that Swap Moto Live one. There's no race footage. Steve's probably got it copyrighted, huh?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
He's making some money.
Yeah, maybe it was like 17, but Ando was on a 450. He was at the bake factory, and he just got his house in Claremont, but he'd been there for a while, and we were filming, and so we rocked up at his place.
No furniture.
Yeah, there was he had this like flat screen TV in his room. He's like giving us the house tour. And it was on the box that the TV came in. His clothes were just piled up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, where the fuck's I'm like expecting some baller shit. You know what I mean? Like 450 guy had won some 250 championships.
Yeah, dude.
And he was like, fuck that, dude. I'm not paying money for that shit. He's like, I'm going to make money on this property. And I'm like, all right, bro.
No need to flex.
Yeah, and then he didn't pay for dinner. We paid for dinner. And then he was telling some story after that about he's like made some chick buy her own dinner that he took out like the night before or whatever. But he's like, yeah, bro. And he mapped out his entire career of how much money he was going to make. He thought he would have been retired by now. The conversation that we had, he was like, I'm going to win a 450 championship. That's going to pay this much money. I've already invested this much money. Then I've got this, and this. I'll do 3 more years after I win a championship.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to retire. I'm going to stay test riding. That's going to get me a salary. I'm going to live off my salary.
Yeah.
Dude, he just had it all mapped out. I was like, bro, that is so gangster.
I love him.
He's the man.
Just everything he does, like it's a no.
Are you close with him at all?
Not. We're buddies. I would say like
But
we
not-
see each
yeah,
other,
yeah,
say what's
yeah.
up. I rode with him a couple weeks ago at Elsinore. Like 2 weeks in a row, so that was cool. But he's just like no fucks given attitude. Like
The coolest.
he rolls up, him and Mohead in the Prius, still to this day. Keaton Ward in the back, like that's his OG boy. Pops out with the gear bag, and then he's got like, he looks like his style is like he's like a skater, or like just like he's just chilling. And I just love that. Like, all these dudes pull up and they're just like, I think part of us needs to be more clean cut and, but at the same time, like, that's also not what dirt bikes are really. Like, dirt bikes is like your own it's your own style, it's your own personality that you show when you ride. Like, you don't see the skateboarders that all skate the same way. That's the beauty of it, right? It's like an art, and I think it's the same with riding. Like, I think we should be able to, like, when we walk in, we should be able to have like some cool outfits on, and have some dudes with some drip. Like the Lawrences walk in, they look good. Like, they're not plastered in logos. They've got a sick outfit on. That gets more attention to the outside world, than wearing the same pit shirt and saying the same thing every single time you're on the podium.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's getting away from that. And I think
it is for sure.
Like Jet and Hunter doing their thing, Deegan obviously
Deegan's doing a good job.
Doing his thing.
The
Even
Lawrences.
riding in the hoodies that he's wearing.
Yeah.
It's
Chase,
just like
Chase does
flair.
a good job. Like, Chase has always got a little bit of flair. Like,
yeah, I think it's definitely changing.
I got a little bit of heat, like, for like just wearing some glasses down for press day this weekend. But like,
oh really?
But like, people are like, they say whatever. It doesn't bother me. The same dudes are watching me from their couch, but
yeah.
It's like, that's my personality. When you see me at the rig, I'm not sitting there like, in a nervous ball. Like, I'm having fun with the boys, like having fun with my mechanic Cam. Like, it's just a good vibe. Like, we're there to have fun. And so, like, why not throw on some glasses that are a little bit funky,
Show me the glasses. Where were they?
I got more heat from like I wore like almost like
Is it on the gram?
Could be. I wore like a do-rag thing. Whiskey Throttle has it. You nailed it.
Yeah, Griff knows what's up. Fuck, they post a lot. Oh, there it is.
The do-rag.
With the do-rag. That's shiesty, boy.
Like what Kiefer said, YSL Yoder. That's a banger.
Oh, that's actually awesome. I fucking love Aiden.
I do too.
Yeah, run that shit, bro.
I think it's sick though. Like, I'm starting to get like some publicity.
Yeah,
Last year I didn't get none. So now, like, it's my time to show my personality, That's my personality. It's not a facade or an act to try to stir the pot. Like, that's just who I am.
Yeah.
And that's honestly all I've ever wanted to like be is make a name for myself and people like me for who I am.
Yeah.
Could not be for everybody, but
yeah,
that's fine.
I think that's kind of the path that you've got to take, like I did Brian has his general's army, and I went on and I did like this call where he's kind of, because it's about like the community is about like giving value to guys that have their own businesses and like doing their thing. And they were talking, or like one of the questions that they asked was about, like how do you succeed in social media and how do you create a brand? And I'm like, you just have to be yourself. So many people are so afraid of judgment. And they're afraid of people pushing against, because if you go out and you're yourself and then people don't like it, like essentially you're dealing with rejection.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a thing that a lot of people don't like to deal with.
Yeah.
And I think at least for me, the way that I grew up, I just didn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
I just didn't care. I was always different. I always knew I was different, and I always just leaned in. I just was myself.
I think I was the opposite a little bit. Like,
most people are.
I think that's a gift, is to not care. I think I was more of like the people pleaser. Like somebody asked me to do something, oh yeah, I'll do it. Like, and probably most times I didn't want to, but like, to make a sponsor happy or, to whatever, like the things that you come across, like I think I would just do it just 'cause, like,
well, and you've got.
I never wanted to ask people for things, like, I didn't want to like overstep or ask for something that maybe I couldn't have, so I just wouldn't do it. And that's something that, like, since I've gotten the club, I think that's really changed me. And I think that's like I think it's probably a confidence thing.
Yeah. Oh, dude, 100% it is, man.
Like, I think I was always probably pretty self-confident in my riding and stuff, but like maybe outside of that, like, I probably didn't maybe care enough to go and get something, and probably wasn't confident enough to like go and ask.
Well, and I think, again, it's like that fear of rejection.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people are scared to be told no, or scared to not, for people to like disapprove of them, you know? And like, I think you're right that it was a gift in my life. And, you know, now doing what I've done, like, I'm fucking pushing 40, Griff. Now I've got to this point, and I've, you know, got friends that I grew up riding with as a kid and went to primary school with.
Yeah.
And they're like, man, we always looked at you as just like you were kind of fucking crazy. Like, you just didn't care what anyone thought. Like, I used to wear sunglasses in class.
Just cause.
I just didn't want, that's what I wanted to do. I always had long ass hair. Like, I always dressed, and I didn't care. It was just who I was, whatever was part of me. Yeah. And a lot of people didn't like it. And, you know, I got bullied a lot, but I just did not give a fuck. Like, I was I'm going to be me, and I'm going to care about the things I care about, and I'm going to do the things that I want to do, and I just don't give a fuck. Yeah. And I don't know where it comes from, but I always just had this thought that, like, I'm going to die soon. Yeah. Like, it's not true. That long that we're here. I am definitely going to die soon. And I just always had like a weird sense of that in my head. And I was like, I just don't care. Yeah. I'm obviously not I didn't want to be a bad person. I didn't want to be a dick to people, but I wanted to do what I wanted to do.
And that's it.
And that's it. Yeah. And I was going to be me. And it's, you know, so many people try to be what they think people want them to be, or what they think that they should be. Well, that ends up being what you're not. Yeah. It's so rare. Who is exactly who everyone wants them to be? Fucking no one. Yeah, nobody. You're trying to be like, if you're trying to be who society wants you to be, there's always going to be haters. There's always going to be people that think that you're doing it wrong. So, like, why even chase that thing? Mm-hmm. It's not even a solid, stable thing that a person can chase. Yeah. The solid thing that you can be is yourself. And if people are going to hate on you, whether you, like, no matter what you do, then why be anything other than yourself? Yeah. You know, and then you have to take the real feedback. You know, as much as I say, like, oh, I don't read the comments, and I don't.
Everyone reads the comments.
But I do, and I don't always do it. But if I see something, I see a comment that's wrong, cool, whatever. Yeah. I see a comment that's right, I'm like, all right, fair enough. Yeah. So it's like, you can put yourself out there. You can be yourself. If people push back with criticism and they're right, take it on board. If people push back with their criticism and they're wrong, who gives a fuck?
Yeah, move on.
And you can just keep on moving through life, you know. But it's definitely hard to do. A lot of people don't want to do, like, they don't want to put themselves through that scrutiny because life's hard enough as it is.
It is. Yeah, it's tough.
What's up, Gypsy Gang? I'm so stoked to announce my new flannel with Dixxon. You can check the link in the description below or head to Dixxon.com. But we've been working on this for about a year now. I picked all the colors, I picked the design, I picked the patterns, and it's finally alive. If you've worn Dixxon flannels before, you know that they are the best flannels that you can buy. And if you've never had the privilege of owning a Dixxon flannel of your own, this is about as good as an excuse as you will ever have. I've been wearing this flannel all through Japan. I've been wearing it on the podcast. It's well and truly wear tested. Remember, head to Dixxon.com, click the link in the description to cop the all new Gypsy Tales signature Dixxon flannel.
What about onto you a little bit? How was Japan? Because I feel like that's somewhere that I actually might want to go.
So good.
And that was like the one thing I was gonna ask you, is like, how was it?
It's the best.
Yeah.
It is the best country.
I'm like a big sushi guy. I think it'd be sick to go snowboarding.
Yes.
I think it'd be sick to see like the underground drift scene. And I feel like just based off of those three things, that's my spot.
Dude, you should.
I don't really want to go anywhere else.
Really? Japan's the only place.
I've been to, so I would go back to Australia.
Yeah.
Because I thought that was very much.
Oh, you did World SX there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was very much like home for me.
Yeah.
And so that was cool. I would go back there for sure. Abu Dhabi, I don't really know if I'm judging this based on if I'm paying
money
to go there. I don't
know.
know if I'd go back to Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
London or the UK really could care less about. It was not for me.
No.
But I think I have never been to Japan. I feel like that's probably one place I will end up going, and I think I actually want to go to.
Can you find the link to the full Joe video? We should show Hunter, like, find something like eating. Dude, the food.
I seen you on the ground, like crisscross applesauce.
Whereabouts?
I think you maybe posted on Instagram or something.
On the ground?
Yeah, it was like you were eating maybe on the ground or.
Oh, yeah.
Or you.
Oh, yeah. We were, I was crisscross out. I was like, what the fuck does that mean? No, I know what you're saying. Yeah, it's on the Google Drive. Dude, it's like honestly the best. Joe's the coolest. You want to talk about a guy
Can they see these? Because that's a cool one that I see right there.
What's that? Liam Lawson. Yeah, that's pretty sick. So go to like something in the eating. Yeah, this is like eating at his grandma's.
Like, you know the crane game?
Go back a little bit.
Yeah.
Joe's my neighbor in Menifee.
Really?
Me and Joe are actually boys.
No shit.
Yeah.
that good?
We used to train together, hang out together.
So you know he's funny as fuck.
So
I know that, and I know that his mom makes some of the best food that I've ever
I'll do
had.
the demonstration here.
So this is his
Traditional
grandma's place.
Japanese breakfast consists of simplicity: a bowl of rice, some soy sauce, and one
Look
raw
at
egg.
that. Raw egg.
Hopefully
rice.
Salmonella doesn't have a passport.
Lovely. Tamago kake gohan. Like TKG.
TKG.
Yeah. Like T stands for tamago, egg.
And this is why they're so healthy.
Like
Yeah.
K is like mixing. And G is like rice, gohan.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
TKG coming up. So good,
Before
dude.
we eat, right? We say
Go to the
like
meat place.
itadakimasu. Itadakimasu. It's like
The second
kind of
dinner.
like a word for thanks for making a food, like appreciation.
Yeah, we
word.
just ate so much. Look at this shit.
Yeah, this is Suzuka. This place called Shinchan. Best yakiniku, like meat barbecue place you can find in Japan. Like top level.
Legit.
Like the quality here is just.
We're pretty tuned up by this point,
it's
so
just
Yeah.
so
Was
high.
Joe tuned
yeah, we're,
Really?
we're fucking lit.
on the sake or
We'll
what?
watch. Yeah,
This
I didn't
meat
even know
just
what we were
slaps
drinking.
harder than my parents. Asian mom. I'm fucked.
That's
he's-
his granddad.
Yeah.
Dude.
His grandpa used to come to like Minios, red stripe, white stripe, blue stripe on the hair.
No way, dude.
Legend.
I so believe it. All right, we'll pause it. Won't spoil too much, dude.
That's awesome.
It's unreal, bro. It's it's like the sickest place.
So Volan wants to go there.
Why don't you guys try and go there with Yamaha?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Show him Sugo. All right, we'll show you. We're giving away all the video here, but so watch. This moto is pretty cool. Or yeah, here we go. So this is the last round of their nationals
Yeah.
at Sugo. I think we're gonna do another East Coast premiere
It
because
should come as
we
no
did the first
surprise
one
that the
here and it was
Japanese
sick. So we might do one at
manufacturers
Indy.
use these nationals
That'd
You
be
won't be
sweet.
there though.
Nah, I
test
won't.
grounds.
But yeah, this is their national. You should try and do a
Jay
national
Wilson,
with
that'd be
Yami.
sick.
America and MXGP, these races are in the factory's backyard, allowing for the quickest possible feedback on any and all prototype parts or ideas.
They were loving it, dude.
Yeah, that is so sick.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, man. The track's like legit.
Yeah, it looks like it.
They had a ton of rain though, so the back was like gnarly.
Yeah.
That's Jay Wilson from Australia.
Yeah, he rips.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
So yeah, you should try and just
Yeah.
literally go to Yamaha and be like, "Oh, yeah, I want to race
Yeah.
the national,"
Yeah.
and
I wonder what they say.
they'd probably want you there. Like I'm sure they'd be stoked.
Yeah.
Dude, let's tee it up.
Are you doing more of those?
the 100-hour things?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're talking about what? Oh, we've got some like crazy shit in the works. Not even moto, like UFC and all sorts of stuff. But Yeah, dude, I love Japan. I'm gonna try and go back this year.
That'd be sweet.
My wife loves it too. It's her favorite place.
We should do 100 hours at Club MX.
Gonna do something like that.
That would be sweet. Because I think, I mean, I've never been to a training facility besides Club, and I've only been there for a couple months. I think to give people like that inside view, and Daniel's actually doing a good job with the YouTube stuff, but doing like something like this would be so cool there, because like the boys pretty much ride every day. They train every day. And all it is like, it wouldn't be like this. It wouldn't be like fun, but it would be more of an inside to like
Of like what the
what's
grind
going
is and
on.
what's
Yeah.
possible there. Yeah.
Yeah. And
No, I definitely I want to go there, especially after having Brandon on the podcast, man. Like,
yeah.
it's
Have
actually
you've never been there before?
no.
So I've been 3 times, and I went like, one was like 5 years ago, one was like 3 years ago, and then now living there on the property. Every time I've gone, it's almost unrecognizable, like the progression that he makes. It's insane. That's what I said before we had started. Brandon is a grinder, and that is his baby. And it's like so inspiring for me to like, you know, I've had team owners in the past who, not that it matters, but like they don't work out, or like, you know, maybe when you see somebody up like Brandon up at 5:30 in the morning in the gym, 6 in the morning, mowing the grass, it's hard to beat that, you know? Like a leadership thing. It's like, if the guy that owns this place and built all this, he could be sitting in his house right now, like with his family, and he's out making the place better. Like, that's cool. And it gives me something to like strive for, you know?
Oh man, attitude reflects leadership.
Yeah.
And when you've got a guy that's leading from the front in that way and is just a fucking savage. Like, he actually is a savage, that guy.
It's easy to build something like that. It's not easy. It's easy to build it up, though, and then go all hands off.
Yeah.
It is way harder to build something like that for, let's say, 5 years. And then for the next 5, you know, let's say you made an 80% increase from where you started. And then, you know, the next 5 after that, he did a 200% increase. And then the next 5, it's going to be 400%. Like, he's got so many things in the works, and it's like so cool to, like, again, feel like I'm there at the right time. Chad coming in, the McGinley Clinic coming in, having a new gym built at Club. Like, I don't feel like there's a better time for that than when I got there.
Yeah, it's funny from doing the pod with Brandon. And I mean, I've kind of had this suspicion for a while that it's pretty much the next star racing.
They want to make it like a D1 school type of vibe.
Yeah.
Like, our gym is going to be, I'm sure he told you on the pod, but ice bath, sauna inside. Like, it's going to be, from what I've heard, like, there will be TVs all around the gym. And so you could basically go there, hook your phone up, and it'll have your workout up on the screen. You know, like the blood tests to make sure that we have what we need. All those little things like that are the things that add up. And, like, you know, over the last couple of years, I didn't realize, like, that's what I was racing against, you know? Like, I was going out there and, like, I had a couple top 10s, but I was like, oh, I could beat the guys up in the front. But then you really, like, get a deep dive inside, and you get to be a part of something like that and see what's actually going on. And then you're like, man, maybe I was further behind than I thought. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like,
Yeah.
I was close, and I was almost there with what I had. But then the guys that maybe rode for this team had this, and I was close behind them. Like, you know, that gives you some hope, you know?
Yeah, definitely. So, well, before we get into the club thing, let's get back to, so you do a couple of these years. So the Geico thing shits the bed. You're on your own. You split ways with your dad. It's just you and your mum trying to make it happen. Where do you get to the point where you're 18 and you're done?
My first year of Supercross,
Yeah.
2022.
Yeah.
So rode for Tylube. Like I said, that was when I spent all the money. I went there. I just struggled with, like, felt like when I showed up on the weekends, like, just didn't quite have what I needed. I'd only been riding Supercross for a little bit at that point, maybe 7 months at most. And I came in, dude. I thought legitimately, I truly believed I was going to go to my first race and get a top 10. And I thought at worst, like maybe if I had a tip over or something, I'd get like top 15.
So,
and I went there and I qualified 53rd after the first qualifier.
Brutal.
And then the next one, I luckily put it in the night show. But that was the reality of my first Supercross. I literally went down the line. I felt pretty good. And they're rolling through. They got top 10 names. I'm not in there. It's fine, whatever. And then they got 11th through 20th. I'm not in there. You got 21st through 30th. Not there. And it kept ticking off. And I'm like, this is weird. Something's got to be wrong, like with the transponder. No, 53rd.
Fuck.
That's why, like, I hope this too, like, I really want this episode to, like, inspire people.
Yeah.
Because I truly believe that anybody can do it. Like, I've done it. Like, if you really, this is going to be, like, so cringy and motivational, but we're not caring anymore what people think.
Yeah.
Because you gave me some motivation after that. If there's somebody out there listening to this right now who's not making night shows, if you really bust your ass and give it whatever you can and try your absolute hardest, at least give yourself another shot and give it another try, because that might be all it takes is another crack at it. Because that's what it was for me. I literally went, like, my first one, 53rd, barely made the night show, probably 12th in the LCQ. The next one I went to, again, no main event. Like, I went 6 races in a row, and I slowly got better. Finally, I went to Indy, made it out of the heat race, had a little break, went back to racing, again, not making mains. It took me I think it was my last race at Foxborough before it was in East-West. I made the main again. I crashed in the first corner, got up in last, and qualified for the main out of the heat race. So it's like those improvements that you see, like, I want, one, for this to be motivational for somebody out there and for somebody to use it. But 2, I also want people to realize, like, how hard it was for me. Like, it wasn't just, I didn't go in there and start ripping right away. Like, that is not the case at all. But, like, for people that are struggling, like, go out there and give it your all. And if it doesn't work, it wasn't for you. And that's okay. Like, it really is. It is okay not to make it to where you want, because I promise it's for a reason. But like I said, I've been there and I've done that. Go give it everything you've got and give it another shot and just see what happens.
And this is a bit of a framework that I've always tried to use for myself mentally, is you only fail when you quit. So you can lose and lose and lose and lose and lose and lose.
Yeah.
And none of those losses equal a failure until you don't try again.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people, I've got a friend who's, he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu now. He owns his own academy. He makes a living off coaching. He's got 3 awesome kids, and he's killing it. He drives the car he wants to drive. He lives in the house he wants to live in, and he has a beautiful family. That's living, right?
Yeah.
So when he started doing jiu-jitsu, he smoked cigarettes, and he was super overweight. And he just changed his life. But so he was competing a lot and losing.
Yeah.
He competed all the way at blue belt, all the white belt, never won a match.
No way.
Then he got his blue belt after 2 years, and then competed all the way at blue belt, never won a match.
No way.
And then he got his purple belt, did his ACL, came back from an ACL, and was a championship winning, like he won nationals and he won states and he won and he's like won competitions as a black belt.
Yeah.
And it's such a, in that story, that's the example of how you should treat your life.
Yeah.
It just doesn't matter how many times you lose if you learn and you keep coming back at it. Like, progress isn't linear. It's just not a straight line up, you know? And I think that if you have the perspective, because so many, just like people are scared to be themselves, people are also scared to fail.
100%.
And
That's my
fail
biggest
publicly.
fear, dude, is to fail. And I don't even know what that really means.
It means nothing.
It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what failure would be for me, but it is my biggest fear.
Well, you still, to be completely honest, like you still have something to figure out on Saturday nights.
Oh yeah.
Because, like, especially this weekend, you were fucking ripping in practice, ripping in qualifying.
It's the little things, like exactly what you just said. Like I rip. Like I truly do go fast. And I don't feel like I feel like Deegan is the best, hands down. And it's for anybody, it would take a lot for them to beat him. And that's just straight up. Like, you know, he was born that way. Like, you know, that's the cards he was dealt. And I got the cards I was dealt.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone else, though, I've almost beat everyone else that finishes in front of me in a heat race so far. Exactly. I've got something else to figure out.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it is to do with dealing with that fear of failure and how you show up on the weekends and mentally. Like, there's a process that you can go through to where you're just not as attached to the outcome, you know?
To kind of map it out and to go back, like, again, 2022, 2 main events. Making a night show was hard. There was a lot of times I went to the gate with 16th gate pick in a heat race, which for you,
Oh, that's brutal.
for you folks at home, that is 31st or 32nd in qualifying, and they only take 40. So it wasn't just one time. There was multiple times, like 14th to 17th gate pick in a heat race. And then, you know, 2023, I signed with PRMX. When he called me, he wanted to do a year deal. And to kind of backtrack a little bit, I had called Ziggy. Well, Julian called me. I called Jamie first. And I said, hey, Jamie, you know, like, I know you've helped me a lot, and, you know, this is a time where I really need some help. I'm thinking about giving up. And I'm either going to give up. I've got 3 options. I'm giving up. I'm riding for Tylube, which cost me $60,000, and it's going to cost me the same amount this year because they're not, you know, up in the program. Or I ride for Julian, who I don't know much about. I don't really know anything about him. Don't know anybody that's ridden for him, so I can't ask. I can't do anything besides basically go there and hope. And he was like, you know, like, I think you just take the Julian ride, like, give yourself a chance, see what happens. And I was like, okay. So then I called Ziggy, who is the owner of Factory Connection, who was there through the Geico thing. And word for word, same conversation. Hey, I'm thinking about giving up. I don't really want to race anymore. If I do race, I got these 2 options, and, you know, this is what they are. And a grown adult, however old he is, doesn't matter. He's a grown adult. Got choked up on the phone, and I can hear him holding back tears. And he says, like, it breaks my heart to hear you say that. Like, and now I'm sitting there in the school parking lot to pick up my brother on the phone. Now he doesn't know it because I'm on mute. Now I'm crying. And I'm literally like, I'm in tears because I'm like, I realize these are 2 very important people to me. Arguably the most important people. My dad's opinion didn't matter at that point. That was one of the rough patches. And so these were the 2 most important people in my life, pretty much. And both of them are telling me, like, don't talk about quitting. And Ziggy's was more heart touch than Jamie's, but I'm like, damn, these people believe in me way more than I believe in myself. Like, what am I doing? You know, like it really hurt me that I like had let somebody down and I didn't even realize it. Somebody I hadn't talked to in probably a year and a half. And Ziggy said, you know, like Ty Lube runs our suspension. This will never be about having a business relationship with you. Like, you know, you're way more than that to me. Go take the Julian ride and, you know, figure it out and see what happens. Like, give yourself that other chance, because if you don't give yourself another chance, you'll never know what could have happened. And I called Julian back and I said, hey, I'm going to take the ride, but I don't want a full year deal. I want 6 months only. Supercross, and that's it. Because if I don't perform the way that I want to, I'm going to quit racing. Just straight up. Like, I'm not going to try to figure out outdoors. I'm not going to, you know, do any more. Like, Supercross is my chance, and that's it. And I went out there. I made every main event besides the 2 East-West, which at the first one I was in 3rd place in that East-West heat race. I had a crash in the whoops. And then in Salt Lake, I had gotten some sort of like food poisoning or something. And so I'd struggled. But every main event on the West Coast I made. And so that was like the turning point. Like, I really had turned it around, or at least I had thought. And then 2024, I came out the first 3 races. I got a 9th and then 10th. And then I got another 10th. So in the first 4 races, I had 3 top 10s. And then I unfortunately blew my ACL. So I took the rest of the year off. But then, like, 2025, last year, I didn't have as many. I got 2 or 3 top 10s, but I finished 9th in points. And so it's like that turnaround has really brought me back, you know, and like this is stemming from what you said, like, you've got more to show. But I think people really need to see
Where you came from.
Where I've come from, and I feel like I've got so much more left in the tank.
Yeah.
I don't feel like my ceiling is a 7th. Like, I feel quite the opposite. Like, I feel like there's no doubt in my mind that I could podium, but like, obviously I got to start with the top 5. I haven't gotten the top 5 yet.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like I could podium. I got next year with Club. Like, the amount of confidence that they've instilled in me is a complete turnaround from last year. Like, I didn't have more than 2 top 10s last year from my recollection. And I've got 4 in the first 5 races. I had a bike issue in San Diego, but I've got 8 and 3 7s. Like, so yeah, I've got a lot more left in the tank. And I feel like also too, all those past experiences have kind of added to maybe the grit and the fight that I do have, you know, that little bit of heart. Like, it's maybe somebody that's won their whole life has a little, you know, chin check. Maybe they don't know how to deal with that, but like, that's kind of what I've been accustomed to. So like, this new life, I think, is almost more of a struggle to accept that I can be a top 5 guy or a podium guy. Like, it's like, well, last year I barely got in the top 10. So I've got Chad Reed telling me I can get on the podium. Like, that's a massive turnaround from where I was at last year and the last couple of years. Like, so yes, to your point, I feel there's a lot more growth to be had.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, Cameron McAdoo is just the perfect example.
100%.
You know, and the guys at Club would tell you, like, he was just a kid that got dropped off.
Yeah.
And just did everything himself, did all his own bike work, did just grinding and grinding and grinding to be...
Had rides, had fill-in rides, had no rides.
Yeah.
Like, he's literally seen it all. And...
now he's on the podium.
Yeah.
Every week.
And same with Cody.
Yeah.
Like, he went... His first year on Club, the year before, maybe he raced the opposite coast. And I think he missed main events the year before he got on Club. And if he did make all the main events, I'm not sure if he did, but it wasn't lighting the world on fire.
No.
I don't even know if he maybe was even in the top 10. And then he went to Club. What did he get? 4th at the first race, and then a podium.
Yep.
Like that. Those are like two dudes that I'm like I look up to because like yeah, never give up. Like keep fighting till the end.
Yeah, and I mean, the other thing that would be incredibly difficult to deal with in your circumstance is just the fall from grace. Just dealing with, like, you would have had as a young kid that had all this self-belief and was winning races and on a one-of-one Geico bike and testing KTMs.
Like, I had everything I could ever need.
Yeah.
And then the rug got pulled on me so hard.
And then to deal with, you know, you talk about not caring what other people think. I mean, pretty fucking hard not to care about the entire, what would have felt like to you, the entire industry being like, dude, Hunter Yoder was a fucking waste of talent. Like, man, that kid used to be so good. He used to be so fun. Look at the guys that he used to beat. And now he doesn't, fucking 53rd in qualifying.
He doesn't make mains.
Doesn't even make main events.
Yeah. No, it's like, it's true. And I think that's like, I've always had the belief that I can be even better than where I'm at right now. But for sure, in the spot where I'm at, like, always felt like, you know, top 10 was very achievable for me. Even when I was going and not making mains, I'm like, oh, dude, I can do that.
And you know what's funny?
Which is insane to even speak because I don't know how someone that just got 11th in the LCQ could go and sit in the stands and say, I could get 10th. I really don't, and I wish I could explain that. But that is a true thought that I've genuinely had.
Bro, people told me that about you. So I can't, maybe it was Banger or maybe it was Jats, but like one of the boys when we were, must have been Banger, because he trained with you, right?
So Banger, when I had no trainer, was my training partner, and we would go.
Yeah. Dude,
the most meathead training ever. I was the trainer. China was the mechanic, who's also in the best way possible. He's a nut job. Like he's talk about on the limiter. He's ready for everything. Like, and if I said, China, we're doing 4 30-minute motos today. Oh yeah, bud, let's get it. Like, it was never like, oh yeah, you know, maybe we shouldn't. It was like, and Banger, you know Banger personally. For everyone who doesn't know, hardest working privateer guy out there, hands down.
Funny motherfucker too.
I would call him, we're getting a little sidetracked, but I would call him and it would be 8:45, 9 o'clock. And I'd be like, Banger, you going to Glen Helen tomorrow? Nah, I don't. Oh, no, I'll be there. it literally from no to I don't have a bike to I'll be there. And then I'd show up and I'd be like, hey, get there at 9. I'd show up at 9:15. He'd be there since 8:15. And I'm like, Banger, how'd you get here so early? He's like, oh, you know, I woke up at 5 this morning. I didn't have a bike, so I took the motor from my 250, put it in my 350 frame, you know, because my 350's at Jamie's right now getting serviced, but I really wanted to ride today because you were riding. And so I just got up at 5 and then I left the house at 6:30 and I got here at 8. And I'm like, what the fuck's wrong with you, dude? Like, here I am getting paid a salary. I've got a mechanic. He's showing up with the van ready, and I can't even be there when I tell him I'm going to be there. And then I got this guy who's got a 10-hour heads up, and he makes it work. And we would show up, dude, 3:30s, 3:20s. We would do sprint laps. Like, we would be there from 9 to 2:30 at Glen Helen, 9 to 3, like, insane. And so, yeah, it was probably Banger, because Banger's been around. He's seen a bunch.
But yeah, he literally told me, he was like, dude, Yoda just is like the most delusional motherfucker of all time.
It's got to be it.
He's like, he will get, like you said, 11th in the LCQ and then be sitting in the stands, be like, I can fucking beat that guy. And like, the dude's battling
That dude just
for
waxed
9th.
me by 2.5 seconds in qualifying, maybe 4.
But you had to, there has to be a part of you that knew from a kid that
Even
you could
now,
beat all those guys.
Even now, like, I got 7th this weekend. I rode, in my standards, pretty poorly.
You rode pretty shit in the main, considering how good you rode all day.
Yeah. And then I watched the race back, and I'm like, I could for sure have gotten on the podium, like, or 4th. And it's...
But you need that.
Maybe there's a wire that's probably just not there. I don't want to say it's loose, but it's probably just not there.
Well, dude, when Liam Lawson was on the pod, he was a kid from New Zealand, and he's like, yeah, man, I'm just going to be an F1 driver.
Yeah.
And everyone's like,
what?
You can't do that, dude.
Yeah, it's
you
not...
can't be
No.
a Formula One driver from New Zealand when your parents are broke and you've got no fucking idea.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, trust me, I'll be an F1 driver.
Yeah.
There's just a delusional level of self-belief.
It's got to be that. Like, it just has to be delusion because, yeah, now that we talk about it, I realize that I currently still do it. Like,
yeah.
it's not like it was a one-time thing. Like, I still do it. And it's like, yeah, it's got to be some sort of craziness mixed with, like, something because I don't think that's normal.
There's a quote, people who change the world are the ones crazy enough to believe they can.
Yeah.
And it's true.
Yeah.
You know? So you go through those couple of seasons. So you were getting a paycheck from PRMX?
Bonus paycheck, but
Bonus
not.
what were your bonuses like? What's a bonus for a team like that?
If I got like in the top 10, probably 2,500.
Okay.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
We'll get into it in a second whenever we talk about the club thing. But I actually made it because I made Cowie contingency, AMA, and Julian paid. I think he paid equal contingency or double whatever Cowie was. I can't remember. But I made a good amount of money.
Really?
Yeah, when I did good.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you're not racing, you ain't making no money.
Yeah.
And even like getting 14ths and 15ths, like in 2023, like my first year, I made okay money. Not something that you could probably live off of, but it was enough to like.
You had some savings, so
he paid for my my room. Like we lived at south of the border. The whole team did. So like he paid for my room. When we moved to Florida, he paid like for my rent and stuff. And so like all I had to really cover was like my groceries, and then like if I wanted to go and play golf, go out to dinner, things like that, then I covered it. But living was covered, bikes, obviously practice, training, everything like that was all handled by him.
So how does the club deal come about?
Just by being friends with Daniel, which kind of, I believe, so in 2022, I think he was doing the broadcast stuff for Supercross.
Yeah.
So I'd maybe met him like at a race or something, known him a little bit. And then I believe, so when I was training kids, I took my good buddy, Nathan Abbott to Loretta's. And I always went to Daxton Bennick's house before because it was in North Carolina. It was a cool spot. Not many people there. It was just kind of quiet. And that was where I like to go. And so I got the okay from his dad to take him there. And we went. And coincidentally, Daniel was there. He worked for Orange Brigade. My guy was on a gas. So they had some sort of, connection. And then I was just training him, and he was training Landon Peppard. And so we had, like, our guys basically ride together, and I'd sit there and talk to him a little bit. And one thing led to another. I, like, went and played a golf tournament with him a couple months later, kept in touch. And then another kind of funny story, I used to go to the club truck probably 3 to 5 times a year and just walk in and be like, hey, is there anybody I could talk to about it, like a ride or a fill-in ride or like something? And so a little bit of a backstory. When I was coming out of amateurs, they wanted to give me a ride, club did. But I was going to have to like pay for my training and stuff. And I just spent a bunch of money. So I didn't have any money to spend. And that was just that. and it was going to cost me a lot of money, like to move all my stuff out there to find a place to stay. It was going to cost a lot. And so I like, in the most respectful way, I had to turn it down because it just wasn't in the cards for me. And so I'd go there, and whoever would talk to me at the club truck, whether it was Mike or Brandon, like even a mechanic, dude, like I would just try to build some sort of connection with somebody so that I could ultimately talk to Brandon and see what he said. And so I got turned down pretty much every time.
Akrapovich, I will say this, best built muffler for the money.
I've never owned one in my life. They those things.
Dude, $1,600, dude.
Yeah, I ain't doing that.
Yeah, you will. You'll do it.
Damn you, Chris Kiefer. They've got one. This part fits your ride. 1,300 with shipping. All right, let's go. So now we hurry up and wait. Oh, that was quick.
Yeah, already.
That's unbelievable. That happened so fast. Because this order was over $79, it qualified for free shipping. And Kiefer was right. This might be the most well-built exhaust I've ever seen. And we wasted no time fitting it to my YZ450. The way the exhaust mounts on Yamahas is unique, but really simple. And in about 20 minutes, we have transformed the look, the sound, and the engine characteristics of this 450. All that's left to do is hit the track. As usual, Kiefer was right. The Acro took the power of the Yami and put it in all the right places. It was smooth off the bottom, but still meaty, and I loved the new exhaust note. To transform your next ride, hit the link in the description and head to motosport.com. And right now, if you head to motosport.com/win, you can enter their ultimate ride sweepstakes and win a YZ450F of your own. What made you want to go to club?
I just felt like it was a step above where I was at. And it wasn't just club. I would try with anybody who would listen to me. Like I turned down 2 different star offers. Once when I was like 12 on a 65 and another when I was like 15 on a 250. I turned them both down, and I would go to the star truck and talk to literally, again, whoever would listen. Like I showed up at Mitch's shop one day, just like the stories you hear. Like I always thought like these guys are just making it up for story's sake, but it's real. I waited in the lobby, and the guy at the front probably has 1,000 people come and ask him to talk to Mitch. And I walk in there and I'm like, hey, is Mitch here? And he's like, I don't know, but I could check. He's just a dude that works the front desk. He's like, what's your name? And I'm like, Hunter Yoder. And he walks back and he's like, Mitch will be right out. And I'm like, okay. I see Mitch roll by. So I think he's coming. Then I see him roll by this way. And there's a window and I'm pretty sure he's looking at me. And finally, dude, I'm just keep standing there. And it's getting dark. Like, I need to go home, eat dinner. And finally, he rolls out, and he's like, follow me. Doesn't introduce himself, nothing. And takes me to his office, and I talk to him. But, like, I literally would just go and ask anybody or talk to anybody who would listen. And so, but the club thing I always felt like maybe was the most realistic.
Yeah.
You can't get 14th and then go ask Mitch for a ride, but I would do it anyway. I didn't really care. But the club thing was like more realistic. And so I would just go there and ask. And I went at Salt Lake Supercross, asked Brandon, I asked Mike, and they both kind of were just like, yeah, like we're not sure what we're doing, which is typical. It was early. And Daniel called me like 3 weeks later and he's like, hey, are you going to Hangtown? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, all right, come to the club truck. I want to talk to you. And I was like, okay, whatever. And I showed up and he's like, hey, I just want to let you know, we got a list of like about 15 guys right now, but you're on the list. And I'm like, okay, like 15 guys is a lot of guys.
Yeah.
And I know there's some dudes that are beating me on factory bikes that are on that list because they don't have a ride for next year. And So it was kind of like, I'm like, almost in a way, like, awesome, but what are you maybe telling me this for? Like, and then,
Because you'd be trying not to get your hopes up, eh?
100%. Like,
Because how heartbreaking would that be to get your hopes up for a ride and then be let down again?
yeah, it wouldn't be anything new, I guess, at this point. Like, it would just be another,
Yeah, another brick in the wall.
yeah, like, I'm already down. I'm slowly starting to stand back up, but what's another kick in the ribs? Like, it's just another tally on the wall. And so I was like, all right, whatever. I got Epstein-Barr last year, so I'd quit racing outdoors completely. And Daniel called me, and it was right after I'd missed one. And he's like, hey. And I'm like, hey, what up? I'm thinking he's going to ask me where I've been. And he's like, would you want to come and test the bike on this day? And I was like, yeah, I would love to. And I booked my flight right there. So it was locked in. Like, because I'm thinking, again, I'm still playing like the defensive. Like, he might be asking me this and then pull the plug on me. But at least if I have a flight and I show up there, then what? Like, you told me to come, you know? Like,
yeah.
Even if you tell me not to, like, I'm probably still going to show up. Like, and so, and then, like, this was in August. I think I went and rode the bike. And I went and rode. I loved it instantly. I love the bike.
Was it the best bike you've ever ridden at that point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hands down. My Geico bike that I had J-Mart's practice bike, which was sick, but it wasn't like, that was a couple years ago as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, at this point, hands down, best bike I've ridden. And I've done 10 laps on a makeshift turn track, and I'm pretty much sold. But again, I still don't have an offer or anything. And so I take my gear off, and they're like, hey, come into the office. Like, let's have a chat. And so I go in there, and I'm just, when I'm getting my gear off, I'm mentally preparing to sell myself. Like, whatever I got to do. Like, go in there, tell them you'd cut your legs off right there in front of them to give you a bike. Like, do whatever. And so, like, what'd you think? We ran through it for a second, and then they're like, all right, like, I think they said, what do you think about the program? And I said, I'd fit in perfectly here. This is exactly what I need. Like, everything you guys have is what I'm missing right now. Like, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Like, I'll do anything. I'll cut my arm off. Like, whatever. All I want is a chance. Give me a chance. I promise. Like, because that's what I've been doing. I've been practicing this with Nate Ramsey and Mitch Payton and Swanee, whoever will listen to me. I've been doing this. So, like, now I'm prepared for somebody that's probably, like, actually achievable with the results I was getting. And I do that. Daniel drove me to the airport. He's like, you nailed it. Like, that was awesome. Like, that's exactly what we want. I go home. I don't hear anything from them. Nothing.
For how long?
Probably a week and a half, 2 weeks, maybe even 3, to the point where I'm like stressing. Before I left, I was doing literally anything. Brandon was on the way to Loretta's, but he was at Club. He didn't watch me ride. But I asked Daniel, I said, hey, can you bring Brandon up here? And he's like, yeah. So Brandon comes up to the shop, and instantly I'm like, shake his hand. I'm like, Brandon, thank you so much for having me. Like, you have the most beautiful facility. Like, this place is amazing. Like, I really hope it works out because this is what's going to take me to the next level. I'm not even talking like I said I hope it works out, but I'm talking like I'm coming here. Like, yeah. I said, this is what's taking me to the next level. Like, when I get here, like, it's going to be great, basically selling him. And Brandon, I don't know how he was in here. Every time I've ever talked to him, and maybe it's because we're business relationship, he's just like, hey, how's it going? Like, super quiet. And I felt like I was talking to him for 15 minutes without taking a breath. And I'm just selling it so hard that I'm coming here. There's no other options. And I finally catch my breath, and I stop talking. And he goes, yeah, I'm glad you liked it. Keep in touch with Daniel. we'll let you know. And I said, thank you so much. Like, I really appreciated it. You know, it was great to see you. And he's like, yep, you as well. I'll see you later. And I'm like, motherfucker, dude. Like, that didn't work. And I felt like I nailed it. Like, felt like I did everything and said everything I was supposed to. And that was the response I got. Like, and looking back now, that's just Brandon. Like, and he's opened up so much more. But, like, at the time, I was
Well, silence is a powerful negotiation tactic.
massive, dude. And it just
So underrated.
it just threw me for a full-on tailspin because I was like, I'm ripping. Like, I'm on the rev limiter talking to him. And I, again, feel like I crushed it. I feel like I crushed it with him. Felt like I crushed it with DB and Greg. And then he just says probably less than 10 words. And I'm got to get in the van to go to the airport with Daniel. And Daniel's like, you crushed it. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, I didn't crush it. Brandon didn't even say anything to me. Like, I didn't crush nothing. Like, so I go there. I literally get out of the van at Charlotte. I call my mom. And this is where I actually am really proud of myself. I called my mom. I said, no matter what, I will take that deal. I said, I can't imagine it being worse than what I've got. But I said, regardless, I will take it, no matter what it is. And I then called my girlfriend and I said, Soph, I'm taking this deal no matter what. Like, this is exactly what I need. I'm taking it. Like, I said, if I don't get this deal, I don't know if I want to keep racing because they have so many things that I didn't have. And, like, it was just a real eye-opener for what I was competing against. And I'm like, I don't know if I can keep doing this at the level I'm doing it at, like, unless it's with them. And so then, again, 3 weeks, haven't heard from him. I text Brandon, like, again. And I'm like, hey, Brandon, hope you're well. You know, just wanted to say thank you very much for having me. And he responds again with something like, yeah, no problem. Keep in touch with Daniel. Which basically I read that as like, hey, buddy, why don't you fuck off and talk to Daniel?
Yeah.
And don't text me. Don't try to butter me up.
Yeah.
So then I text Greg and I'm like, hey, Greg, you know, thank you so much. Like, I pretty much probably copy and paste, but like move some things around. And he's like, yeah, you know, whatever. And then I text Daniel. I'm like, Daniel, thank you, dude. Like, this was an amazing opportunity. Like, and he's like, yeah. And Daniel was the one doing all like my negotiation pretty much between me and them. And they send me a contract and I'm like, I'm pumped. I'm practically doing backflips before I've even read it. And I open it and it says, right at the top, it says Club MX Yamaha or whatever. Right below it, it says 2026 scholarship deal. And I'm like, am I a student? Like, scholarship? What the hell does that mean? Like, and so I read it, and it's like, this contract is for Hunter Yoder for the 2026 Supercross season only. Then you go into the payment section. Rider will receive no payment. Rider will receive only bonuses for the top 5. Rider doesn't receive any Yamaha contingency. Rider gets whatever it was per diem, less than what I was getting with Julian. Everything was less. And I'm like, it was honestly like a stab in the heart, really. Like, I'm like, I thought I was going there and getting a salary, and like, I probably had false expectations because of, you know, rumors that I heard that weren't true. But you figure that out later down the road.
Oh, so you heard guys were getting paid.
I heard
more
guys
money
were getting paid, you know, like guys that I was beating that don't ride there anymore. I heard they're getting paid like triple, you know, 6 digits, just a salary. And I'm like, dude, that guy doesn't even race. Like, he's hurt all the time. Like, and they're giving me a scholarship. Like, come on. Like, it. And so I was 1,000% sold. And then I was like, almost had backed off a little bit when I got that. Because I'm like, oh, that hurts. I could make because Julian really wanted to keep me. And so he was willing to step it up like a bunch with bonuses, like different kinds of, I could have made probably $100,000 this year, like if I would have done good with Julian. And I really wrestled with the idea of going to club because it just didn't seem very, and this is probably me being like not having as much confidence as I should have, and me being maybe a little bit scarred from past experiences.
Probably.
I think that was mostly what it was. And I'm like, I can't go there on this tryout deal. Tryout deal doesn't work for me. Like, it just, and I was like almost talking myself out of it. And I had a couple conversations with some different people, and I got mixed reviews. Everyone I asked, what should I do? It was like, maybe do this, maybe do that, whatever. Stay where you're at, go to club, you're not going to regret it. And it just wasn't helping me. Like, and then 2 people that sold me on it, Dustin Pipes was trying to get me to ride World Supercross for him. And I'd obviously ridden for him before, so I had a relationship, stayed at his house when I did that. Like, so we know each other well.
He's good people.
Very good. I love his dad. I love him. Like, and this was actually when I really realized, like, that dude's got my back no matter what. Like, somebody I've only had maybe brief interaction with, a couple months, because that was all World Supercross was. He said, go to club. You'll not regret it. You're going to do great. I know you can do great. I believe in you. I've seen what you can do on a motorcycle, and don't look back. And that's coming from somebody who's not only trying to sign me to his team for World Supercross, but arguably like a competitor as well.
Yeah.
If they had a 250. But somebody that I could have said, because I kept putting them on the back burner. I said, hey, I'm just going to be straight up with you. I'm dealing with club, AEO, Julian, and all 3 of them. I think it would be conflicting if I rode for you, but just if you can give me a couple weeks. And he did, and then it got down to crunch time, and he couldn't. And so him calling me turned into him helping me out. He was looking for an answer, and he took 40 minutes out of his day to talk to me. He could have easily said, oh, you're not going to ride for me? Okay, that's it, later. And it was not that. And the second one was my best friend. He used to race privateer. He don't ride anymore. His name's Wyatt Lyonsmith. And I talked to him. He had known. I talked to him every day on the phone. And when he really put it into perspective for me, he said, I said, dude, it's kind of like betting on yourself, and I'm not a betting man. Like, and he goes, do you hear yourself right now? And I'm like, what? He said, you've been betting on yourself your whole life. This doesn't change anything. This isn't betting. You're more than capable of going there and doing what you need to do. You're not betting on yourself. This is a different opportunity. There's no risk in this. This is it might not be what you want, but there's no risk. You can do this. Like, and it was more in depth than that. But when he said that, like, I really was like, you're right. Like, with Julian, that it was a good, like, placeholder, but it's not.
It was a stable. It was comfortable.
I've been there for 3 years. Exactly like you talked about breaking up with your girlfriend or having a fallout with your dad. Like, it was that for me. It was breaking up with a girlfriend. There was something else out there that I wanted, but I wasn't sure if I was willing to leave what I had to go get what I wanted. And when he said that, I realized what I've had for the last 3 years hasn't been no risk. It was no risk because I was the best performing guy on the team. But, God forbid, one year I wasn't. That risk comes right back, right? Mm. And so I really only had like 1 year deals with Julian. I had a 2-year deal with him, but I truly was betting on myself every year without even realizing it. And so the next morning I called Daniel. I said, I'll take it. And I went there basically on a tryout deal. and I went there after SMX, which was in like October, and started boot camp around November. I went there every day. I was like the first one. I tried to be the first one to the shop. I tried to be the first one to the gym. You know, whatever they asked me to do, like moto wise, I would make sure I did it as hard as I possibly could. You know, and I literally, that was like the first time I think I'd really actually applied myself that much, which was crazy to think, because I felt like I think when you're in it, you always feel like you're doing the most, right? You're like, oh, nobody works harder than me. Like, you know, I can't do anything more. And then when you do a little bit more, you're like, oh, I wasn't doing shit before. And so I went there. I was riding good. I didn't realize how good I was riding at the time. But like, I just showed up on time. I did my gym workouts no matter how tired I was. I didn't complain. Like, all those things that I think normally I would have probably tried to like weasel my way out of or not done, like, was the things that it was just no questions asked. And Daniel calls me one night and he's like, hey, you want to do a podcast with me? And I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like, went over to his cabin. We run through it. It was like 40 minutes. And at the end, he goes, before we end it, like, this is on air. I just want to let you know that you've earned a 2-year contract extension. And the hair on the back of my neck stood up, my arms, everything. And I'm like looking at him, and he starts laughing. And I'm like, is he messing with me? Like, I truly didn't know. And I'm like, are you for real? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, you're not lying to me. And he's like, no. And he's like, Brandon gave me the go ahead. And I'm like, no fucking way. Like, for real? Like, this is every morning I wake up for this. Like, for that was to, and I didn't know. I woke up to try to go get the best results, because that was what my contract was relying on, was results. It wasn't based on practice. And so to get it a month before the season was like insane to me. And my girlfriend was at club at the time. She goes to school full time. So that was like one of the 3 days that she had off, and she was there. And she stayed at the house. I went to Daniel's. It's only 30 seconds, but I drove back. I called my mom. I'm like so pumped. I'm practically about to cry. I'm smiling. I'm like pumped. I run in. I tell her, she's crying now, like, because she went with me. We've been together since I tore my ACL in 2024. So I met her. She has no clue about moto, not a lick. Her dad used to ride, and that's about it, like at Milestone.
Yeah.
So when I had met her, she had never seen me ride. I could have been not making mains. Like, I could have been the dude that was, you know, in the privateer pits, like just going to ride in the practice and hopefully make the night show. Like, I could have been anybody. So she's seen like that come up. And so now she's crying. I'm on the phone with my parents. Like, my dad's sitting there. He's crying because, like, again, everything that I've talked about so far, like all the stuff we've gone through, even before he told me, like, you know, you should really think about that club thing. I don't know if it's the best. Like, his thing is like, I got to make a living.
Yeah.
My thing is, I only get one chance at this. If I make no money, then it is what it is. I think I'll be successful in life no matter what, hopefully. But his thing is like, got to make a living, got to make money, and it was no money. And so then I tell him this, and he's crying on the phone. My mom is like probably about to cry. She's extremely pumped, and it was just like, that was the moment where I was like, finally, like, this is what I've been working for. And that was like, after that, all the pressure was off. You know, I didn't feel any more pressure. Like, there was the positions I had to get were, you know, pretty intense, you know, for another deal. And judging off the year before.
So what, were you had to get like top 10s and stuff, or?
Yeah, I mean, like, if, you know, some top 5s, some top 3s, hopefully that was like, there's a couple tiers to it, but yeah, like, you know, top 7, top 5, top 3, like, coming from a guy who the year before got a 10th, maybe 2 10s, and the average position was probably 13th to 14th. That's a tall order,
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
a big jump. You're in amongst factory dudes then.
Mm-hmm. And so that was the moment where I was like, finally, like,
Oh, dude, I can't even imagine the relief.
yeah.
So was that 2-year deal with money?
Yeah. So, like, I make a salary now.
So
yeah.
you went into this year not thinking you were going to make a salary?
I was planned to not make a salary, and basically just survive off of my Cowie contingency card from last year. And like, I had some money from Julian, like bonuses and stuff. So it's not like I'm scraping by any means, but like, you know, the Cowie contingency was going to help a real big amount. And, so was the PRMX bonuses, and that was going to get me by. I went there, like, to club. I didn't even unpack all of my stuff. I put it in my room in boxes because I thought, like, if it doesn't work out, I don't want to have to pack all this stuff back up. Like, I'm just going to quit. Not going to go ask anybody else for a ride. I'm going to give up, and I'm going to go back home, and I'm just going to get a job and just
Figure it out.
do life, yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. Like, looking back, it's just like, it feels almost like I've made it. Like, because I almost had that when I was at Geico.
Bro,
I was very close to having that, like,
that same relief, that
like,
same feeling.
all right,
of relief.
you got 4 years of pro or 3 years of pro, like, you're good. Like, not that you're good, you need to perform, but when you can perform a lot better when you're not thinking about you having to perform.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's been like a big weight off my shoulders, but I did say I was going to go there no matter what, and like I stuck to that, which I was proud of myself, you know, because I could have easily gone back to Julian for some more money and, you know, done that, and who knows what, like maybe made some improvements, maybe not, and you know, it would have been whatever, it would have been okay. But I chose to take the risk, and
chose the harder option.
Yeah, and it's hopefully working out for me.
Yeah, what do they say? Like hard path, easy life, easy path, hard life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that when you do purposely take the hard road, like before the show, you said like about the Dubai thing.
Yeah,
that was me purposely making the hard choice.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to do the thing that's like really hard for me right now because I know I kind of need it.
Yeah.
If I stay, it'll be easy, it'll be comfortable, and that's just not that's not the way to progress.
No. And there's always like a graph too. I see it every once in a while on Instagram. It's the guy who takes the hard road at a young age, and then he's sitting on the hilltop. And then there's the guy who takes the easy road at a young age, and he's down. And so that was like, for me, it was just like, all right, like, not that I wasn't working hard, because I was, but
yeah,
like,
but not to the same level.
Not to the same level. And that's because of the team and Brandon and the facility. But yeah, give myself that chance to work even harder and put those pieces that I was missing in my puzzle and see what happens. And like we started the show with, I'm okay with like if it doesn't work out. If it doesn't work, like I feel like I've already accepted it, and it is what it is. Like I'll figure out life away from moto regardless, and you know that's not me rolling over and giving up. That's just the reality. Like just figure it out, you know, and it might not be for me, but I won't know if I don't try, you know?
So how good has the club thing been?
Incredible. Yeah, incredible. Like just all of it. You know, I go back to right time, right place.
Dude, so true. It's so heavily on the come up.
You know, I look back at like when I had that amateur opportunity that I turned down, like if I would have went there then, you know, what would have happened? Like I wasn't in the right mental at that point. You know, I probably would have gone there, and if it didn't work, like it would have been a wasted opportunity. I wouldn't have really probably had a second chance. And so now I look like, and it's just right place, right time. And I feel like that's hard to sometimes realize when you're in the thick of decision making. But when it works out, then you realize like, okay, that was the right one. New gym going in, like I said, new, you know, new equipment, new people coming in, staff-wise. Chad Reed becoming the trainer, massive. That is huge. Like, he's so supportive of me. And that's not really something I think anybody can be a trainer. I truly believe that. But there is something to be said about a guy who's won 4 championships, raced arguably one of the longest professional careers of anybody.
Against the gnarliest guys of all time.
It's not like he had the longest career against nobody. He got like, I don't want to say shafted because he won a lot, but RC, James, Villapoto, Dungy, you know, like
Tomac, Rocks.
Yeah, Tomac, Rocks, and Canards, like the Millsaps, like, you know, he literally fought, I feel like, when the sport started to take a ramp up in like difficulty. You know, everyone's training now. Everyone was testing. It's not like they were going and riding in the hills. So he went through the hardest patch of all of that. And, you know, his accolades, like, to have that behind him and then to have him behind me, it says a lot, like, for me. He's just boosted my confidence to a whole new level. His knowledge is incredible with bike stuff, with body-wise, you know, tracks, things like that.
He was even telling Max the other day to change his pant size.
Mm-hmm.
How gnarly is that he's paying attention to how their fucking pants look?
Yep. I'll give you one more. He was cutting Max's gloves up in his garage. You know, Max didn't like whatever it was, maybe the grip or something, and Chad was cutting up gloves in. He could pawn that off to somebody else so easily. He's Chad Reed. Like, at least for me, when Chad says jump, I say how high. Like, so he could easily just say, hey, you know, cut those grips off, see if Max likes those. Him and Kaya, his daughter, were doing arts and crafts in the living room with Max's gloves. Like, he's been out there riding my bike, making my suspension better, making my chassis better. Like, it's all the little things that's what I say, like, with the puzzle. It all adds up. You know, we went and rode at Triumph a couple weeks ago before the season. He didn't have to drive down there. He drove himself down there, got his own hotel. He was there for us. He is Chad Reed. He could easily, you know, be half in, half out, and probably we'd be okay with it. You know what I mean? Like, can't really argue with that. And he's not. Like, he is just as, if not more committed than me and Max, like, to make us better.
Yeah.
Doing everything.
That's
like,
awesome, dude.
Yeah. And it's been, I never trained with Brandon, but I was surprised that Brandon handed over kind of the keys to the program to Chad. Like, again, that's Brandon's baby, you know, and he just let Chad run with it for a little bit. And now Chad's like a massive part of the program. He's been to all 5 of the races. He's going to Seattle this weekend. Like, you know, he stayed with us in Arizona this past week when we didn't go back to club. Like, he's in it, dude. And for me, that's like, again, right place, right time. Just being there, having that is exactly what I've needed. And then everyone back at the shop as well. My mechanic, Cam, I don't know if you met him this weekend. He was a
probably
taller
did.
guy.
Yeah, I probably I would have.
Robbie,
Yeah.
he's Ryder Malinowski's dad.
Yeah.
Snowcross champ. He's like the crew chief. Extremely attentive. Like, he just knows what's going on at all times, paying attention to all the little details, like exactly like what you were talking about. Not as much with, the pant size, but every little thing on the bike, Robbie's paying attention to. And then just Joey and Greg, like, they're the motor and suspension guys. But like, we have such a solid crew and setup. And then, like, the cherry on top is me and Max. Like, we're boys. Like, we are. I didn't expect us to be as close as we are, and we are. He's had a tough road,
Dude.
like, me and him, arguably, we're supposed to be the guys that kind of went to that top spot. And I think he kind of understands, because, like, he's been down that path, the same one that I have. And so there's no ego between us. Like, we go down there to train. He's helping me out. I'm trying to help him when I can. Like, it's, it just, and we have fun too. It's hard there's days like he kicks my ass, and, there's days I kick his ass, and it's very hard for someone to accept that, as a teammate, because you want to win every day against your teammate, and that's not the reality. But it's almost, for us, like, it doesn't matter really, like, because we know at the end of the day we're both getting better, we're both pushing ourselves, like, and so it really just ties the whole program in together. Like, no bad eggs.
Yeah. No, I mean, it seems to me like Club is on a tipping point where it's about to be one of the best teams, I feel like. And I think that I knew you'd had a rough go, but it's pretty crazy what you have had to overcome. And you're still young, like real young. I thought you were older than you were.
Yeah.
But I mean, and you know what? There's probably some attitude stuff on your end that you could have done different as a kid.
For
and,
sure.
There's probably like a lot of lessons like you had to learn in terms of like checking your own ego.
When you get 60 grand as a 13-year-old, the ego gets boosted real quick, even if you don't have the biggest ego, you know, that, and each paycheck, it only grows. So you're 100% like, the money equals knowledge sometimes, which is not true. But in my case, like, I'm like,
you just thought you were the man.
Got this. But it's also like, I think like I said a couple times, everything happens for a reason. I was probably meant to be on that maybe that hard path for a little bit, to maybe I could have gone down the wrong road. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But I think without that, I tell people all the time, like, they're like, oh, you regret turning down Star twice? If I had those options in front of me again, I'm taking the Geico one every time. I know that sounds crazy. It shaped me into the person that I am today, and I wouldn't change that for anything. Like, it's instilled things in me that I probably would not have learned, if it wasn't for that. And so that's, lessons that are, you can't buy those.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that you're right. You've probably grown as a person to the point where you are now, and like very capable of like progressing. And then you're on a team that is progressing at a crazy rate.
Yeah.
And man, people when they listen to the podcast with Brandon are going to be like, Jesus, that guy's a fucking animal.
Yeah, he is.
So it's like, what is on the horizon for Club and what's on the horizon for you? Like, dude, I 100% think you can podium.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that probably people are starting to realize that.
Yeah.
Before this year, I think that was, and honestly, between you and I, you'd probably say the same thing, but you probably would have said no chance. Like, just historically looking back, like, but yeah, and even I probably would have said,
No, you still would have said you could podium.
Yeah, for sure would have. But no, it's just like you said, Brandon being like a mentor and team owner, and then also being involved in everything is like, he doesn't have to, and it's so cool that he does, and it's so inspiring for me. Like,
Yep.
I've had to work hard at this, and he's worked hard to build what he's got at Club. And so, yeah, the whole team is hardworking. Brandon searches for hard workers, and, you know, it's a good program that we've got right now.
Yeah. Dude, this was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, unreal.
Damn,
like-
that flew.
Yeah, 3 hours.
Yeah, that was quick.
Bro, crazy story.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty impressive to do
Hey,
what
and,
you've
and
done.
Gypsy Tales. Right time, right place.
That's it.
Yeah.
I knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
It's cool. So I've known Nate forever.
So that's another one before we wrap it up.
Yeah,
I was questionable about Nate.
Really?
I didn't know Nate.
Okay.
And Nate came in kind of like with this wide open attitude. And all I had known Nate was because he worked at Paula and he had ran the Instagram account at Paula.
Yeah.
And that was my only knowledge of him. And so I started calling people and I'm like, hey, you know, Nate Hawley, like, says he's an agent. I don't remember him being an agent. Like, all I know is he ran the social media at Paula. And they're like, oh, yeah, he used to work for Madison and Robbie Madison and,
Yeah.
and Hurlings.
Yeah.
And
DC.
DC. And
Yeah.
I'm like, what? Like,
Dude, one of my first paychecks filming ever came from Nate Hawley.
no way.
Yeah, he called, dude, in 08, I want to say, he called me up. Maybe it was after, because maybe I would have had to have gone. Maybe I hadn't gone to America yet. But anyway, paid me like $1,500 US
Yeah.
to do this interview with Pastrana for DC. And that was like $3,000 Aussie at the time.
Yeah.
And I was fucking broke, bro.
Yeah.
Like completely broke. And I
Yeah.
got like, all of a sudden had $3,000 in my account. I was like, what the fuck? So
Yeah.
I've always liked Nate, even just from that one thing. But yeah, he's been around forever, bro.
I was just trying to get an agent this year because I like eventually, and that was at the beginning of the year, like in 2025. But obviously, I kind of needed it when I started like the negotiations with the 3 teams. And I called a couple people, and they answered the first time, and then the second time I was looking for a follow up. I got nothing. Radio silence, no text back. And I would just keep, dude,
Just ghosted.
I would keep calling. I'd keep texting. Hey, it's me again. Like, you know, just hoping you had time. And then it would be like the text I sent before that. And then I sent the next one a couple days later. And then they'd be like, oh, yeah, I'll call you on Monday. And then I'm sitting there Monday. And I'm like, hey, man, I'm free. You know, call me whenever. Nothing. And so finally, Nate was calling me all the time. And I'm like, what am I doing, dude? Like,
Yeah.
he reminds me of me. Like, why wouldn't I give him a chance? Like, if there's a guy that's going to fight for me versus a guy that's way too cool to answer the phone, I'm taking the guy that resembles me every time. Like,
Yeah.
all I want is a chance, and, you know, he's clearly willing to fight for me. So, like, let's give it a shot and see what
Well,
happens.
I have probably 40 emails from him about
Yeah.
you doing the podcast.
Yeah.
And it's cool because like I said, I've go back a long ways with him, you know, and like the last thing, like we're very busy.
Yeah.
And it's been a
No,
super
for
busy
sure.
start to the year. And then when you were out in California, I think it was like when you got your club deal, he wanted it then to like announce
Yeah.
it. And I was like, dude, I'm just not,
Yeah, no.
I'm not doing shows right now. 'cause
I remember that,
I was still in
actually.
Australia.
Yeah.
And I'm like, maybe I could. And then in the end, I was like, you know what? I just can't. I can't do
No,
it. I
and
gotta wait.
it was way better that I came here and got to do it in person. And
But to his credit, so he didn't take it as I was saying no,
No.
and like trying to blow it off
Yeah.
as I didn't want to do it. I was like, hit me back in this time. Then he hit me back.
yep.
And then I'm like, dude, we're wedged. Because I think we were going to try and do this around the A1s or like
Yeah.
around earlier in the season. And then we were booked.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then-
and then my knee thing as well, that threw a wrench in the program, like
Yeah.
crashing
Yeah.
before A1, that didn't help. So,
Yeah. So anyway, he just literally kept
Yeah.
going and going until we got this done. And I love that. And a lot of people aren't like that. A lot
No.
of people just don't have that dog in them to just like keep going. So
Yeah.
I'm glad it just
I appreciate
it's cool.
it.
It just seems like things
Yeah.
are coming together for you. And I hope, you know, this has come from a person that's been humbled by life.
Yeah.
Life has humbled me a lot of times, and it's gonna do it again.
Yep.
You know, it's not
part of it.
It's not the last time that
No.
life is going to completely humble me. And, you know, I can see that in you, you know, like you would have been a cocky kid at 13
100%.
getting paid 60 grand a year
Yeah.
to ride a dirt bike thinking, this is it.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a star. And life has humbled you several times.
Yeah.
And you're this dude sitting here right now off the back of some great results with a 2-year deal with a great team. I'm happy for you.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. I really appreciate it.
This was awesome, and it's cool for you to come on here and be so honest about everything.
Yeah.
And not.
I wasn't. I don't know if I was planning on coming to be this honest, but like, also too, I feel like this is like you said, we just worked so hard at like coming to do this. It obviously takes, you know, a couple people all being on the same schedule, and it's like, this is my chance, you know, to like show people that it's not all. It's just, I'm not just on a club deal now and living life. Like, it was not like that. So
yeah, it's been a grind to get here.
Yeah.
Dude, I think you've just made yourself thousands and thousands of new fans.
I hope so.
Because it's a crazy story. Stories like this don't happen that often.
No.
You know, and dude, like, I don't know if you've ever heard about Zach Osborne's story.
I trained with Zach last year.
Well, there you go. Bro, his story, after listening to him, he did the pod a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
After listening to him, and like, again, you always like know people. Like, I knew your story out in the ether, knew it.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew Zacho's story, and I'd hung out with Zacho a bunch of times. But when you really hear it, dude, he didn't win a goddamn thing.
Until he was done, practically.
Well, until he won his first race,
Yeah.
then he won his first championship, then he won the outdoor championship, then he backed it up, then he won a 450. It's like, this kid just spent his whole life struggling.
Yeah. No,
And then he just turned into the winner of all winners.
I tell people all the time, I'll do whatever it takes. And if it takes that long, like, all I want is ultimately like to win races, but to win a championship. And if it takes that long, like, then it is what it is. But like, I will do that if that is what it takes. Like, and so training with him last year was like, that's like, you know, a work ethic that I look up to, you know. He's grinded no matter what. And so
Yeah.
I could take a little bit of that, and, you know, I hope it doesn't take that long, but if it does, then I'm not going to complain. I'll do whatever work it takes to get to that point and win championships. And yeah, I have no problems with that.
Hunter Yoder, ladies and gentlemen. That was awesome.
Yeah. Thank you again.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.